Did you get you a drink from the fire hose too? Okay, everybody, if we could all take our places, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to call tonight's meeting of the public hearing of the Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board to order at 6:50. Let the roll call show all board members are present except for Mrs. Fisher. Do I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Beautiful. Are you okay? Okay. All right. Okay. We'll turn the time over to Ms. Mock.
President Carver, members of the board, and guests, good evening. This is our third and final presentation for the fiscal year 27 budget. This is our formal adoption. We started this process back at the beginning of the calendar year when we started looking at our insurance costs for the next year, followed by our salary costs for the next year. Those are the most significant expenses that we have in Deer Valley Unified School District since we are a service industry, and 85% or more of our budget go to salaries and benefits. I'm just waiting for that presentation to come up. Nothing has changed since our June 9th approval of the budget to be advertised. We're not allowed to. We can adopt a budget that is less than what we advertise. We cannot adopt a budget that is more. And so, still waiting on the presentation. I'll start then with our budget priorities. One of the first things you heard from us as well was the budget priorities for fiscal year 26-27. We had a stakeholder committee of parents and staff members, and here were the priorities that that the committee came up with. And this was based on stakeholder feedback from surveys from parents and staff members as well. And the number one priority our stakeholders wanted for the fiscal year 27 school year was to provide competitive and sustainable compensation, including salaries and benefits for the purpose of recruitment and retention. There have been years in the past where some of those might be broken up, but this year's committee really thought that it all belonged as one item. The second thing that they ranked on the survey was maintaining a safe and secure learning environment, followed by supporting students' emotional well-being through professional support and staff, but also then through safety and infrastructure such as cameras and other security staff, SSOs and SROs. They wanted to preserve staffing levels, sustain high-quality academic and co-curricular programs, and maintain special educational programs. The basis of our budget, as you know, we've presented this twice already, is our average daily membership, or our ADM. You can see here the history of our ADM from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 26. And that reddish-orange line is our projected ADM for those years, and the blue line is our actual. We did a pretty good job of projecting it in fiscal year 25, but for the other years, we projected a little bit higher than what we ended up with. We know in 23 and 24, the expansion of ESAs was a significant portion of that, but we also know that we have fewer incoming kindergartners compared to our 12th grade. You can see there that for next fiscal year, we had 2,000 and almost 500 12th graders going out and only 1,700 kinders coming in. So that's the basis of our budget. What else comes into our budget? And I would like to thank anyone here in the audience or listening who helped with the M&O override. I appreciate your support for the district wholeheartedly. We are able to restore the M&O override to 15%, whereas this year in fiscal year 26, we had to reduce it to 10%. The legislature did fund the 2% inflationary increase, and we are projecting, again, a decrease from this year to next year, about 425 students from our 100th day this year. Thanks to our recruitment and retention strategies, we do have a slight increase to our teacher experience index, meaning that overall, on average, our teachers are more experienced than the state average. And so we get a little bit of a bump in our operations budget for that. Our M&O carry forward is projected to remain relatively consistent at 11.2 from 11.5 last year. This is just a brief summary of our staffing standards that the budget is built on. District additional assistance, or our capital, is being fully funded in fiscal year 27. And we do have our formula for the continued use of our cash accounts. Last year we used over $8 million. This year it is being reduced to $6.45 million. The net result is a general budget limit increase from $274 million to $285 million. What some of those categories look like is a decrease in certified staff, and that again is due to that decrease in student enrollment. An increase in classified staff members, most specifically behavior techs for our specialized programming. And then we mentioned the two meetings before, that reconciliation of those 2.0 warehouse workers who've been working for quite some time, and in the total dollar value of the budget, they just were not in the FTE count. This budget includes the return of one contract day for employees who experienced the furlough day in fiscal year 26 at about $1.2 million. And the board, thank you very much for approving earlier this year a 2% salary increase. That total is about $4.2 million. We do have a $300,000 expense for social workers that are being moved into our M&O funding from grant funding. This is safety funding that had funded over $800,000 in social workers previously, and we just were not able to get the grant at the same level this year that we were last year, or next year than we did this year. And those individuals were already offered contracts. They were not on a limited contract, And so there's no other place, as a social worker, there's no other role they could slide into. But if you remember from a few slides ago, our stakeholders actually said this was important to them. And so we made sure to make room and keep it in the budget. Then we had $35,000 in reclassification requests that we'll take a look at a little more in detail here at a couple slides. Our non-staffing changes include a state retirement decrease of 0.02% from 12 to 11.98. In the same vein, alternative contribution rate decreased from 9.75 to 9.45, a little bit more of a decrease there. We are projecting no change to our utility budget, many thanks to our utility management program for helping us save on those electricity dollars. That'll keep us from any increases next year. We did have an increase to transportation discretionary budget. A lot of that is due to the rising cost of fuel and the need for contracted drivers as we work to get our fleet, our driver fleet restored. There's a decrease in school discretionary budgets, just a slight one, and again, that is due to the decrease in enrollment because their budgets are based on their student count. We have an increase to our property liability and our workers' comp insurance, and we are maintaining $4.5 million of district additional assistance in M&O. So when it comes to the summary of revenue changes, this is the pretty spreadsheet of everything that I just talked about and the changes from year to year. And so you can see it's just a little over an $11 increase to our general budget limit from last year. And here's that same change in expenses. And so we've got that same 11.3 million decrease in expenses. Here's what I promised when it comes to those reclassifications. Anything you see here in blue is not funded with M&O. And so you see the dollar values for those 5 positions in M&O. It does say $25,000 there instead of $35,000. As we were reconciling to include this to make sure that we listed each position specifically, we realized that a couple positions that had been listed as M&O when we did our original count were not in here. And so that $35,000 will actually only be $25,000. And so that $10,000 is what our auditors would call immaterial. That would just be considered carry forward in the future if we don't use it. Now, all of that budget then goes directly into our district tax rates. Our tax rates are based on the qualifying tax rate, our net assessed value, and the value of any of the additional taxes that we are levying, such as our bond and override. You can see here that the blue is our primary tax rate from fiscal year 20 to our fiscal year 27 projected, and our green is our secondary tax rate from fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 27 projected. We have a very nice trend of a decreasing tax rate and more of a significant change this year than in the past. And a lot of that is due to the growth in the district. We have significant growth in both commercial and residential, so the overall net assessed value of the district is increasing, helping spread that tax burden for some of those secondary rates amongst more taxpayers. So we talked about net assessed value and qualifying tax rate. Here's a little bit more about that. Our net assessed value increased 6.7% this year to just over $4 billion for the district as a whole for our 367 square miles. The qualifying tax rate, or QTR, decreased 3% from 3.1212 in 26 to 3.0264 in 26-27. Then we have a slide about the homeowner's rebate or the state aid in a little bit. And for many years, cash has no longer been considered in calculation of the tax rate. Secondary tax rate, many of the same things apply, and there are fixed payment schedules for bonds and fixed levy for overrides as well. In the past, Prop 117 in 2012 made changes to assessed valuations. So your personal property may not increase in net assessed value or your LPV, limited property value, by more than 5% annually, but because we have so much new growth in the district net assessed value has actually increased greater than that. And just more about the tax rate change from year to year here as well. And so this is a little bit what the tax rate looks like from our 26 actual to our 27 projected. And some of the property values with the new tax rate, what they would look like. And so you can see there, I think it was, here we go. After this is where it looks a little bit better. We've got our state aid credit, or what we had always listed before as the homeowner's rebate. And so that is a rebate on a Class 3 property that is 40%, but no more than $600 per property. So you can see that here in actual tax bills. These are snips from Maricopa County Treasurer's Office tax bills. You can see the top one has a limited property value of $133,000. And so a state aid rebate of just over $300. The property on the bottom has a limited property value of $412,000, almost $413,000, and you can see then where their state aid is limited at $600. With this, we'll have an item later on the official board meeting agenda to approve classified exempt performance pay for fiscal year 27. We have been doing that historically in October, November, December when the school year is half over. And so as part of the improvements that we're making in our budget process, we're bringing it here so that when staff come back in July and August, they will know that this is already in place when they begin to set their individual performance plan, individual professional plan goals. And so this is the first time we're doing it in June. We think this is a good improvement for staff to know that this is happening in advance. We already advertised the budget for 10 days, and we'll be asking for adoption on the agenda. As this is a public hearing, we will take any questions regarding the fiscal year 27 budget from the governing board or any members of the community.
Do we have any public comment on this topic? Anything from the board for Ms. Mock? Thank you, Ms. Mock.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the public meeting?
So moved.
And a second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Do we have all the public comments for the regular meeting? Last chance.
Apparently we have comments.
I'd like to call tonight's meeting of the regularly scheduled Deer Valley Unified School Board meeting to order at 7:05. Let the roll call show all board members are present. Dr. Zurbach, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Is there a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bodfield. Thank you, Ms. Simoncek. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. First item on tonight's agenda, item 2A. Dr. Pack?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the Deer Valley Education Foundation, DVEF, Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, for the 2026-27.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Botfield. Ms. Mock, anything to add?
President Carver, members of the board, and guests. Nothing has changed since we previewed this on June 9th, but I do want to recognize Deer Valley Education Foundation Director Marie Brennan, who is sitting here with us today. She and her team do a lot of good work for the staff and students in Deer Valley, and nurses, teachers. And so just as a reminder, the two things that changed on this is on Exhibit A, we just memorialized that in addition to things like Space Camp Teacher of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Nurse of the Year, Deer Valley Education Foundation has started to support the student artwork purchases. So the artwork that you see in the lobby, nicely framed and hung up to display the wonderful work that our students do. Deer Valley Education Foundation donated the payments to the students for those purchases. And then the other thing that started this year as well is that we memorialized in this is the National Board Certified Teacher. And so we just want to thank Deer Valley Education for their partnership with Deer Valley. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mock. Any questions for Ms. Mock on this topic? Dr. Pack?
Last year when this came up, I asked a lot of questions because I was new, and all the questions were answered to my satisfaction. But more for community members, am I understanding right? And again, it's from last year, all my questions. Ms. Brennan's salary is not paid through the district funding, correct?
President Carver, Dr. Pack, members of the board, and guests, no, Marie's salary is paid by the foundation. If Ms. Brennan's salary were paid by Deer Valley, it would be included in this MOU. And as a reminder as well, we do every 5 years or so actually have a legal review of the MOU. We can continue this partnership so long as the office space that we provide to Ms. Brennan and to DVEF is equal or, at least no more than what they provide us. And I think we are definitely getting the better end of the deal with what Deer Valley Education Foundation provides to us compared to the kind of the small office space we give to them.
And I will say she's here late when I'm here late reading vouchers, so I concur with that. And just another follow-up question. Did I read somewhere that we're adding a clerk to help in that regard?
President Carver, Dr. Pack, members of the board and guests, we are not adding a clerk.
Not adding a clerk, okay.
We have had for years less than a 1.0 FTE. I think it might be 0.8 that is split between two people. So there are two individuals that fill less than a 1.0 FTE position for Deer Valley Education Foundation.
Thank you.
Anything further from Ms. Mock? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Next on the agenda, item 2B is in Bravo. Dr. Pack?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the use of FY27 insurance proceeds.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Simacek. And Ms. Mock, do you have something for us?
President Carver, members of the board and guests, this is just an annual requirement that the governing board approve any insurance proceeds that we believe we may spend in the next fiscal year. This is our best guess and just a procedural item to check off the list of many of the beginning of the year things we have for fiscal year 27. I'll answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Ms. Mock on this topic? Dr. Pack?
Just one. Are insurance proceeds in a bucket that you can use for anything, or is there a limit on that?
President Carver, Dr. Pack, it is a specific fund. It's Fund 550, and it can only be spent on those insurance claims. So what would happen is, let's say there was vandalism at a school. We knew it was going to cost $5,000 to replace the laptops or windows that might have been damaged. We submit a claim to the insurance company, we receive the funds back, and then we use those funds to repair those items in the district.
Thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Next item on the agenda, item 2C, Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the FY 2026-27 district performance pay percentage for classified, administrative, and exempt employee groups at 2%.
For a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bodfeld. Ms. Mock.
President Carver, members of the board, and guests, I have nothing to add from the public hearing when we discussed classified exempt performance pay. Well, maybe I do. The only thing we didn't add is this is not paid from our operational budget. It comes from one of our cash counts. For at least the second year in a row, we would be using our MIPS fund for this.
Any questions for Ms. Mock? And we have a public comment. Do the math. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So we have a public speaker, so I'll read the admonishment. The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary, to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting the personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. If Carrie Knudsen can approach the microphone, please.
Ms. Knudsen, if you'll just wait 1 second. We'll have 2 minutes tonight. Is this the only item you're speaking on tonight, Ms. Knudsen?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not going to be
So,
2 minutes anyway.
We have 14 speakers tonight, so that'll be roughly 2 minutes apiece, just so everybody's aware. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Knudsen.
Hi, I'm Carrie Knudsen. Hello, everyone. My problem that I have is that we're taking 1.6 million from the MIPS dollar amount to fund the not the exempt people for their 2%. I think if we're going to take money away from our medical children, it should be to fund their providers, their OT, PT people for their 2% extra cash, because they're the ones that actually earn it and not the exempt people who have nothing to do with children. If we're going to use that money, let's put it towards the people that actually have something to do with that the children that the money's funded for. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Knudsen. Ms. Mock, would you like to respond?
President Carver, members of the board, and guests, the other professional staff are provided performance pay through the Classroom Site Fund. That means that their performance pay is actually typically greater than 2%, and that has been back and forth. When we originally had Classroom Site Fund, we funded their performance pay through there, and then the legislature for a short time said that we couldn't fund it through there, and then NST voted, when we were able to fund it through there again, that we could actually include our other professional staff once again in Classroom Site Fund. And again, we do that because it provides them more than a 2%, a greater performance pay than what they would receive through the Medicaid and public schools. Additionally, Medicaid and public schools, the items that are being billed for are items that we have to do regardless. Whether we bill or not, we are already paying those staff to do those items. There is a lot of paperwork that individuals go through to get those claims, and we are very appreciative of it. And I think I said at the last meeting as well, what we spend in our M&O budget, our IDEA budget, and other funds combined for special education staff is greater than what we receive in Medicaid claims. So this is one way that we are offsetting that M&O budget, and there are many reasons that we wouldn't take those folks out of our M&O budget that gets heavily detailed into grants and maintenance of efforts, and I don't know that we have time for that this evening. But we have been doing this for the 20 years that I have been here. You can use the MIPS money for anything that is educationally appropriate, including performance pay for staff.
Any questions for Ms. Mock on this topic? Dr. Pack?
Do we ever have MIPS money that's above and beyond what you need to pay the classified performance pay?
President Carver, Dr. Pack, yes. We actually have a mechanism in the presentation at the beginning of the meeting during the public hearing where you saw those 5 cash funds. MIPS is one of them. So we already look at everything that we're taking out. We have a couple staff, such as our MIPS clerk. We take that out of their supplies, performance pay, all those things that we know are coming out of MIPS in the next year. And then we take half of that. And that half is what we infuse our M&O budget with as well. So that $284 million general budget limit that you saw already includes half of the total fund of the MIPS that we have. We save the other half for a rainy day and then use that same formula again for the more than 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from Ms. Mock? I'm sorry. Yes, Mrs. Fisher.
Those funds, we bill for special needs students, correct?
President Carver, Mrs. Fisher, it would be anyone who's Medicaid eligible, so it's not necessarily just special needs. Those are the most of the population, but I believe it was, well, how many years ago? I think it was right before I went to county in 2023 that it changed, where really any student who's Medicaid eligible, that we would be able to bill for those services as well.
Okay, well, we have a lot of complaints about our special needs students not having the appropriate para support that they need, and our paras being extremely low paid. Is there a reason we're not using any of these funds derived from those students for those students?
President Carver, Mrs. Fisher, yes, again, we are using those funds. We take half of the overall balance of the fund and infuse it directly into M&O, which includes paraprofessionals. And the paraprofessional ratio, or how they're assigned, is based on IEPs, and the payment structure is based on NST. And I don't know if Mrs. Moffett will remember, but our parapros actually were reclassified a couple years ago, and so it has not been that long since our parapros were increased a couple of ranges on the salary schedule. And they're on deck for discussion next year. I actually believe there is a focus group that Ms. Knudsen a part of that Mrs. Moffett is running. And so, we heard that from NST and from the board during the NST process last year, so we continue to look at that as well. So when we make these recommendations for the 2%, it's not in isolation of everything else, it's in consideration of the entire system.
Okay, well, in 2014, we removed a significant portion of one-on-one paraprofessionals for students that needed them. Has that changed?
President Carver, Mrs. Fisher, I would defer to Dr. McCusker, but one-on-one paraprofessionals are decided based on the IEP. So if we eliminated
but we stopped
one-on-one
writing them in
paraprofessionals,
IEPs.
it would be because the IEP designated that to be so.
President Carver, Ms. Fisher, I think maybe what you're referencing are the budget cuts that
Oh, no, I'm
took effect
referencing
that year, and that
I'm
also
I'm
included.
referencing one-on-one paras being removed from IEPs intentionally in 2014. Did they?
I think what you are referencing during that time was that under Mr. Remus, when we were reorganizing the configuration of teachers and paraprofessionals.
Correct.
Okay.
And we removed
So there wasn't
writing one-on-one paras for special needs students.
At that point in time, it was a rearrangement of who was going to be providing those para minutes. So it was either going to be the certified staff member or a classified paraprofessional. So that was the service delivery model at that time. Things have changed since then. And so we We don't use that exact model any longer, and so I don't have an exact comparison for you, but we have added a substantial amount of paraprofessionals back into this system since I have been in human resources anyway.
I would like to know a report on how many one-on-ones we have in the district.
Paraprofessionals specifically?
Correct?
Okay.
One-on-ones. Thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Okay. Passes 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Item 2D as in Delta, Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to adopt the 2026-27 expenditure budget.
Thank you, Ms. Simichek. Anything further, Ms. Mock?
President Carver, members of the board and guests, we have nothing further since the public hearing.
Any additional questions for Ms. Mock on this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'd like to explain my vote. Since we don't know what's in it, I can't vote for it. So I have to vote nay.
It passes 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Next item on the agenda, item 3, Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 3A through 3P.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Simichek. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Next up on the agenda, item 4A, Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approve the addenda as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Simichek. Is there any information to be shared on this topic? Any questions from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
As always, for the protection of student funds, I will vote no.
Sure. Ms. Simichek. Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Next up on the agenda, item 4B is in Bravo, Dr. Pack.
I move that the governing board accept administration's recommendation to approve long-range planning committee recommended attendance zone changes beginning with the 2027-28 school year.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Botfeld. Ms. Mock.
President Carver, members of the board and guests, we're bringing you tonight some additional information from the Long Range Planning Committee and bringing it in a little bit different fashion than what we've seen in the past. We'll be waiting for that presentation to pop up on screen. Since June 9th, the Long Range Planning Committee met on June 18th. We looked at some alternative options for the potential boundary change between Union Park and Norterra Canyon, and did some feedback on those options, plus another option potentially for Sonoran Foothills, and just got some feedback on the Inspiration Mountain proposed boundary change as well. Those were the three that we've heard the most feedback from the community, and so we thought it was important, and the board thought it was important to look at those again. And so we can take a better look at those as soon as that presentation comes up. So those are the three specific maps that the committee looked at from phase one. While we're waiting for the presentation to queue, we do have a slide for the proposed boundary change between Norterra Canyon between Canyon Springs and Anthem. We've not received much feedback on that. And that is where there is a significant portion of the Canyon Springs boundary that is east of I-17 from Anthem Way south to Joy Ranch Road. And then it, all right, I'll keep talking while we're waiting. And what happened was when Canyon Springs opened, Anthem was bursting at the gills. And so that's why the Canyon Springs boundary extends east of I-17, even though the area east of I-17 is closer to Anthem. Anthem School is one of the lower in attendance in the Boulder Creek region at this time. And so the proposal that we're just going to call Proposal Boulder Creek Region 1A is to move that boundary as presented between Canyon Springs and Anthem. I don't even know who's back there to send it to him. The next one will be really helpful when we get those slides up. But next we're going to go to the Sandra Day O'Connor region. And one of the proposals that we had was for a significant portion of mostly uninhabited land north of Deem Hills. There are some homes on the most southeastern border, but that entire boundary at this time belongs to Stetson Hills. And so that goes all the way from I-17 west all the way to the Terramar border and all the way north of the 303. And so what we know right now is that there is a significant residential communities being planned in there, including North Park, which is about 15,000 homes. And I believe actually on north of the 303, we've recently learned that there are going to be more homes up there. We originally believed that most of that was going to be commercial, and indeed it is. That's where the two main fabs for TSMC are, and then of course everyone's favorite Costco is going in that area as well. But so the plan now before those homes are built is to divide that piece up into different segments, and so that once those homes are being built, we might have room in the schools for them, because Stetson Hills at that time would not. One of the reasons we are doing this is that, if you remember, the reason we started the boundary committee or the long range planning committee is that for the past 2 years prior, not in 25, we had gone out to our public for a new bond authorization, and that did not pass. And so since our community has not entrusted us with those additional bond funds that we've had the luxury of having to manage growth for many, many years, we are looking at the $0 solutions that we can use for the time being. And so just by splitting up that area, we would be able to manage some of those first homes, hoping then that our community would entrust us with the new bond. The North Park area does have plots of land for 2 K-8 schools and a high school. But that area probably outside of 10 years is going to see even more significant growth than that. And so that is Sandra Day O'Connor High School Region 1 recommendation. Sandra Day O'Connor High School Region 2 recommendation is a recommendation that goes between Inspiration Mountain, Las Brisas, and Stetson Hills. And so it starts roughly at 57th Avenue north of Happy Valley, and then it follows along 55th Avenue all the way to the entrance at Deem Hills Park. It includes a small section of Stetson Hills in the Indian Springs area. And the recommendation is to move that area to Las Brisas. Las Brisas is one of our largest and emptiest K-6 schools that happened when we rezoned for Inspiration Mountain back in fiscal year 23 when that school opened. That is one of the boundaries that the committee took a look at on Thursday, and what we worked on was looking at the pros and cons, what works about it and what doesn't. And what the committee liked, the pros they listed were a long-term balance across the region, but really just it's a short-term balance, and these are directly from what they wrote on the sheets. So short-term rebalance with Las Brisas and Stetson Hills. 55th Avenue North geographically appears to be a natural divide. The concept is good and it supports future growth. Some of the cons they listed was that that still is not enough for Las Brisas. It remains one of the lowest projected schools. It does cut off the Stetson Valley neighborhood, and some of those families were just rezoned in fiscal year 23 to go to Inspiration Mountain, and so 4 years later we would be asking them to return to Las Brisas. As a reminder, we do grandfather in any student, and that is by statute, that they may remain at the school they're boundaried in if we make a boundary change. That takes us to our third and final region recommendation, and we'll take a look at these maps once Ms. Taylor and folks get the slides up. But the boundary adjustments, we took a look at 3 specific recommendations for the Barry Goldwater High School region between Norterra Canyon and Union Park. Right now, Union Park is one of our largest schools, and it's projected to be at nearly 200% capacity in the next 10 years. And so Norterra Canyon, being 1.2 miles north of there, actually is one of the fastest shrinking schools that we have. So we looked at the original recommendation for moving boundaries between Norterra Canyon and Union Park, and that's at Dixoletta and approximately 23rd Ave to approximately 18th Avenue at the canal on the west and Norterra Parkway on the south to include homes northeast of West Copperhead Trail ending at 15th Drive would be moving to Norterra Canyon. We've heard a lot of feedback already from the community regarding that option. So at the last board meeting, Dr. Pack actually suggested Casino Avenue, I keep wanting to call it Drive, but it's Casino Avenue, as a potential new break for the boundary on the southern end. And so there is a slide that shows what that looks like. It includes, the committee had a lot of discussion about one little gated community that I believe is technically Fireside that is on the west side of that boundary. Casino Avenue dissects it in half. And so we would have to make a choice. One of the guiding principles that we use for the committee is to use some of those natural breaks for the boundaries. And so moving to Norterra Parkway and North Valley Parkway below that neighborhood is a natural break. Above that neighborhood is a private or charter school. It's Primrose. And so there was a talk, do we go above there or below there? And the committee, quite honestly, had equal arguments for going north or staying south with the natural boundaries. One of the arguments for taking the boundary north is that those students are bused to Union Park. And so when we grandfather students in regarding the Spanish immersion program or any that we would provide transportation to, perhaps they could hop on that bus. The one problem with that is it is a gated community and the bus stop is marked by transportation inside the gated community. So if we wanted to keep the boundary south but find a way for transportation, that's something that we could do as well. Pros and cons of this recommendation. The committee believed it's still fairly balanced. It achieves more balance over time, and it's a clean line. The more of a balance in enrollment is what one person said, and there were a couple comments that said it includes small neighborhoods south of Primrose School. It would benefit the west side of North Valley Parkway for open enrollment busing. Some of the cons were that it's hard on that small group of kids on that side to be included, or even actually a small group of kids in, I think they mean Fireside, to be moved. Some have projected that it's about 80% of Fireside would remain at Union Park and 20% would be moved to Norterra Canyon. So that's some of the comments that, well, it splits the Fireside community a little less equitably. If the small neighborhood south of Primrose School is not included, there may not be a safe bus stop for kids on the west side for those that are grandfathered for transportation, as mentioned previously. And then Barry Goldwater High School, option 1C, since Fireside has come into play, whether it's 50-50, 80-20, we did take a look at a 0% option that includes pretty much the same area from the original recommendation, just minus Fireside. And so some of the pros and cons on that are that the Fireside community stays together and it does achieve balance, a similar balance to the other option, but the distance increases for transportation considerations. Students are passing the closest campus. Fireside staying together is a pro for families, but a con for balanced enrollment. Increased transportation cost, funky boundary line, and Union Park projected to have steep growth compared to option 1. Now, when I sent out a summary of the pros and cons, I did remind the committee, all of these students are already being bused a further distance to Union Park. So transportation projected that there would not be a change in the quantity of bus routes, but the bus routes that are now moved to Norterra Canyon would be shorter. And so it was the committee's perception, and we talked about that a little bit, that it probably would not be the case. For those three options, after we looked at them and looked at the pros and cons, we did have the committee rank at their request. They wanted to rank or vote on which of the options they prefer. Now, I will tell you, it was not a vote like we did back in February. In February, we said, you know, we did all thumbs up, or, right, what we brought in March for approval had been all thumbs up by the committee. So in this case, with the three options, we just asked them to rank. Which one would you rank your first choice? Which would you rank your second? And which would you rank your third? So with the rankings, closer to 1 is the favorite. And for this, the original recommendation eked out the Casino Avenue recommendation by 0.1%. And so the committee, I mean, it's negligible for what the average is. And so while you'll see in our recommendation that the recommendation is still the original recommendation, that is because it was just higher in those rankings than the Casino Avenue option. I know some of the committee members are here this evening, and I'm going to say this anecdotally from what I heard from them. I don't think the committee would be upset if the Casino Avenue was chosen instead of the full original recommendation. But the third recommendation of 0 Fireside was typically ranked either second or third favorite, and it came in at about 2.2 for a ranking. So the first two options that are here were the clear favorites from the committee. Yeah, we're on slide, I would have to tell you which slide. If we keep going, thank you. Dr. Gowling is going to come help you get caught up. Yeah, no, I don't have numbers on the pages.
No, the community's clear.
Here's the options we just spoke about, and we're getting to Barry Goldwater High School option 2 in 2 more slides, I believe. Yep, one more, yep, and then one more. All right, so for Barry Goldwater High School, this is a region we haven't heard much about, probably because no one lives here yet. And this is a new development, Pinnacle Heights, that's at 39th Avenue, just south of Pinnacle Peak Road. Right now, this is zoned for Paseo Hills and Barry Goldwater High School. But the thing is, to get to Paseo Hills and Barry Goldwater High School, you have to turn right out of the neighborhood, right onto 35th Avenue, cross over Adobe Dam, get to Deer Valley, and then come into the neighborhood. Desert Sage is about probably 3/4 of a mile away on the north side. And so the recommendation is to change not just this new neighborhood, but the entire area from 35th Avenue West to about 43rd Avenue, from the canal or the dam to Model Way, and move that to Desert Sage, Hillcrest Middle School, and then Sandra Day O'Connor High School. We believe that overall, this probably will save in transportation. 7th and 8th graders will be bused to Hillcrest, but all of the students would have been bused to Paseo Hills and in the future, Barry Goldwater High School. And so I think overall this makes more sense. The neighborhood is closer. It's aligned to the neighborhood closest to it as well. So when we go to the next slide, we'll take a look at options for Sonoran Foothills. And this is the original recommendation from the committee. You've seen another one that we'll take a look at here shortly, but this is the area of Sonoran Foothills that is roughly North Paloma Parkway between Dove Valley Road and Carefree Highway, and I-17 on the west side. And so the recommendation is to boundary these students to Sunset Ridge. We did note when we were looking at the data originally that multiple students in this area actually are already open enrolled in Boulder Creek High School, because this would change not only their K-8 school, but their high school. So it would provide transportation for students that are already being driven there. When we took a look at this with the committee, we did take a look at the option on the next slide as well, which is the southern border of Sonoran Foothills coming back into Norterra Canyon. And as a reminder, the committee looked at this with its original recommendation as well. And so this is where we had to say a lot of if-thens, this, or if this, not this. And so if the board wanted to recommend Barry Goldwater High School, or the committee wanted to recommend Barry Goldwater High School option 3A, we could not also in good conscience recommend 3B, because there would be roughly no students left at Sonoran Foothills. So it would have to be a choice between 3A, the north side to Sunset Ridge, or 3B, south to Norterra Canyon. Now, south to Norterra Canyon would work, but we still need to free up some room at Union Park. And so either the Casino Avenue option or the Zero Fireside option would work with this. However, this was one of the options that we had the committee rank as well, and ranking whether it was your first or second choice. And the north side, you can see here, was an average of 1.1, or a rank of 1.1 out of 2. And the southern end to Norterra Canyon came at a 1.88. So the favorite was still the original or the preferred was still the original recommendation, north to Sunset Ridge. We've had some members of the community that also wanted us to look at, and we don't have a slide for it, but we can talk about it. Instead of doing a horizontal break for Sonoran Foothills and dropping the southern end kids, bringing them back into Norterra Canyon, perhaps looking at a vertical break from North Valley Parkway west to I-17 between Carefree Highway and then I think it's, I can't remember which road at the south, but I think it's all the way to Dove Valley Road. That area right now is where the hospital is. And so that area has the hospital and mainly zoned for commercial, around that area. And then north of there is yet, really is relatively undeveloped at the moment. There are some apartments that are in that area, but there's not a lot of students. And so we did ask our demographer, Rick Brammer from Applied Economics, to come and perhaps answer any of your questions this evening. He is here sitting behind me. And so when I sent him that question, his response was that that western side of Sonoran Foothills moving up to Sunset Ridge would not yield us the room, or really any room, as most of that is zoned for commercial. And so I don't know that wouldn't be a recommended option to pursue. And so when we looked at, I'll just go over, Gail, if you want to come back up to the one slide. When we talked about the options 3B for Sonoran Foothills and the Union Park option, the pros that the committee liked was it kept Fireside together. That originally there might be an influx of students to Norterra Canyon. It sets up new builds so families know in advance, balances enrollment, displaces fewer families. New builds can go directly to Norterra Canyon, easier transport to Sonoran Foothills, to Norterra Canyon, than to Sunset Ridge. The cons were just that little bump out, that gated community we talked about previously on that west side of North Valley Parkway, just above Norterra Parkway. Also known in the cons as the Triangle neighborhood because it's not moved. Increased cost in transportation, perhaps, and Norterra Canyon population goes way up right away. And one of the variables that we talk about whether or not that enrollment's going to change as on the projection right away is that we've already talked about it. When it comes to that grandfathering of students, we know, right, these projections are based on every student who attends this school or is zoned in that school. Let's say they move to the new school based on the boundary, but Arizona has the luxury of school choice. And so those are the variables that we need to look at and decide that even though this graph shows us that a school is going to increase by 200 or decrease by 200 in 1 year, we know that's not going to happen because we know our parents are going to take advantage of school choice and stay in the school of attendance for a little bit longer. So we know we're not going to see 100% of the students. It's more of those new students coming in that we know we're going to capture from the boundary change. Now with that, we had some, on the next slide, on slide 13, we had some questions from the board at the last meeting. And these are the answers from some of the questions. While we were actually sitting in the meeting, Dr. Zerbach was texting the principals from Sonoran Foothills and Sunset Ridge. We had a question about SAGE and our gifted program and what grade it begins in for both of those schools, and both principals have confirmed that SAGE begins in 4th grade. We talked a little bit about open enrollment, and someone had said, or someone had perhaps reported to a board member that the open enrollment application was not working. I tested it as far as I could go without actually submitting myself for enrollment in kindergarten, and it was working. However, and for anyone listening, members of the board, if you ever hear from a community member that something is not working, please let us know. That is a product that we program in-house from our wonderful programmers in our information services and technology department. And if it's not working, we need to fix that, but we can't fix it if we don't know it's broken. So we tested it, it is working. Students, parents should be able to go on and submit an open enrollment application. That typically opens for the next school year around December. But it's open after that. And again, it would be a different process if we moved the boundaries. We would work with those who wanted to stay at their school so that they would not necessarily have to submit an open enrollment, but we would capture their desire of which school they wanted to go another way. One of the questions we've had since the board meeting is whether or not the schools we're discussing right now have capacity for open enrollment. And we talked specifically about the capacity for open enrollment depends on how many classes there are on campus and how many students are in each class, determining whether that teacher has capacity to add students. Oddly enough, it has nothing to do with space. And so when we talk about boundaries, we're talking about Union Park might have capacity for open enrollment. We had that slide at the last presentation, but what they don't have is space for the number of classes they have. And then we talked a little bit about preschool. Union Park and Sonoran Foothills don't currently have preschool because they don't have room for preschool classes. Norterra Canyon does have a significant amount of preschool, both in community ed and developmental preschools. And actually, the preschool programs, regardless of boundary changes, may move on an annual basis. Other than developmental preschool, if it's written in an IEP, we don't transport for preschool. So parents transport their students to preschool, drop them off, and pick them up typically. And I think we answered all the questions from the last board meeting, but there'll be time to ask questions again. But with that, on the next slide, based on the feedback from the committee, this would be the recommendation at this time, that the governing board approve the attendance boundary change affecting Canyon Springs and Anthem as presented. Approve boundary change 1A and 2A as presented for Sandra Day O'Connor regions. Boundary 1A and 2A are described below. And for the Barry Goldwater region, there are 3 recommendations. It would be a recommendation to approve boundary changes 1A, 2A, and 3A as presented, with those descriptions below as well. With that, we will take questions. As I said, we have Mr. Brammer here from Applied Economics, if you have any questions specifically for him as well.
I believe we have public comment. We have 7 and, what's that? Yeah.
They always give us good
Lee,
questions.
would you leave the last slide up, please?
Yeah, okay. We'll go ahead and have public comment before the board engages. And just so the community knows, all board members had hard copies of the maps. I know we had some technical issues, and I apologize for that, but we were able to follow along with Ms. Mock's presentation. So Dr. Pack.
The admonition remains. If I can have Rachel Krogman, Brian Elam, Christy Cooper, Brielle Wells, Kelly Fisher, Carolyn Cole, and Carissa Dean approach the microphone, and please state your name before you speak.
All right. Good evening, President and board members. My name is Rachel Krogman. I am a resident of Carefree Crossing and part of the Sonoran Foothills School community. Tonight, I'm here to oppose haste. For Carefree Crossing community, this would be our 3rd boundary disruption in recent years. Voting without accurate data is not leadership. It is a roll of the dice. Ms. Mock's presentation claims they evaluated other options but dismissed our concerns. The demographer's map portrays the North Gateway corridor as relatively undeveloped. That is completely inaccurate. Anyone who takes the time to drive down 29th Ave can see a massive transformation with families already moving in. This growth is slated directly towards the Sonoran Foothills School, a supposedly overcrowded school. Worse, the demographer's own data contradicts this proposal. Their numbers show Carefree Crossing's enrollment declining. Yet this is the area you are moving to Sunset Ridge, while the booming growth to the north is left unmodeled. Public data demonstrating this is on file at bit.ly/carefreecrossing. We also face conflicting information regarding academic continuity. Ms. Mock's presentation states the Gifted Sage program begins in 4th grade at both schools. However, I have direct evidence from the Sunset Ridge Gifted Coordinator confirming this has not been the case and depends entirely on student numbers. We are being asked to disrupt our lives based on verbal assurances already contradicted by staff on the ground. Please do not force a final vote on an incomplete process and unresolved consequences. Please deny these specific boundary changes for Sonoran Foothills and Sunset Ridge tonight, and direct Ms. Mock and extended leadership to return with a transparent, side-by-side analysis of all reasonable community alternatives against their stated guiding principles. If this proposal cannot be clearly defended against DVUSD's own guiding principles tonight, how can it be responsibly approved tonight? Thank you.
So I want to ask this board.
Please state your name.
Sorry, Brian Elam. I want to ask this board to pause tonight and consider what the pattern here is telling us. On March the 10th, this board rejected the boundary proposal. Board members asked for new options, clearly defined alternatives, and a path forward that reflected community concerns. On June 9th, those same requests were made. Again, Dr. Finch's response was to go back to the demographer. Not a commitment to new options, not a commitment to listen, a commitment to the same process. And tonight we are voting on the same proposal. Winston Churchill said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Real leadership means staying the course under pressure. When this board rejected his recommendation in March, Dr. Finch resigned. He broke his contract. He gave up on the employees, the teachers, the parents, and our children. In the private sector, that decision ends careers. It reflects an emotional response, not sound leadership judgment. We have a boundary committee where the majority of the members are district employees. We have asked repeatedly why. We still don't have an answer. The mission of this district is to provide extraordinary educational opportunities to every learner, not 10 years from now, the students in our classrooms today. Dr. Finch once said, and I'm quoting directly, "The Deer Valley Unified School District does not benefit a group of corporate shareholders. It benefits students and families right here in northern Maricopa County. An investment in student public education with DVUSD is a greater return on the investment than any dividend payment from Wall Street." I agree with him completely. And yet, Dr. Finch and Ms. Mock keep pointing to TSMC and the expensive homes that may be built one day as justification for the boundary changes. Students that haven't been born yet, families that haven't moved there yet. Meanwhile, the students sitting in our classrooms right now are being asked to bear the cost of that vision. So I ask the board tonight, whose interests are we actually serving? Because it's not the students in front of us today. Thank you.
I'm Christy Cooper. I just had a question. It said, she said that our community committee voted, that most people voted for that one, but the committee was mostly made up of Deer Valley members and even the parents on the board, on that committee, were they actual people being affected by the boundary change? Or are those, like Dr. Finch said, people that were not affected by the boundary change? So when you guys can make a survey monkey and literally send it to the people that are being affected by the boundary and have them all vote for which one they want or what they want to see, because we do it all the time as teachers. We are constantly being surveyed. So I also was curious if they ever talked about, I had a teacher come and ask me why they're not talking about possibly making Desert Mountain a 7/8 junior high. If we took our 7th and 8th graders and we took our Desert Mountain kids and put them at Sunset Ridge, it would fill Sunset Ridge. And then we could take our 7th and 8th graders from Union Park, Sonora, and Foothills, and our large schools, and move them and fill Desert Mountain. And then that way we can offer more electives and more classes. We can do different languages, such as, the Spanish and the Mandarin programs, and we can offer them more. If they're at a junior high, then we can give them. And it would also fix our K-8 issue with our master scheduling issues that we have every single year. Can't give the supports we need to our K-6 kids because of the conflicts with lunch and recesses and specials. I know, because I've dealt with it for 11, 12 years now. So if that's something that they could look at, is doing a junior high possible. I know my daughter liked it. Thank you.
Good evening, President Carver, governing board members, Dr. Finch, colleagues and guests.
Excuse me.
Hold on one second.
She gets 1 minute for this one.
Just a reminder, you get 1 minute.
Yep.
You're splitting your thing.
My
Go
name
ahead.
is Kelly Fisher. I'm a 25-year veteran kindergarten teacher, and I'm here tonight to speak in support of the Boundary Committee work. I had the opportunity to serve on the team that developed these recommendations, and I can confidently say that in every discussion, we centered on one question: what's best for the students and the educators. As educators, we understand the challenges of teaching in overcrowded classrooms while still trying to meet the individual needs of every student. When classroom exceeds their intended capacity, it impacts student learning, teacher effectiveness, and overall educational experience. Asking educators to take one for the team is not a solution. It's demoralizing to the professionals doing this work every day, and it sends a message that student learning conditions are not a priority. The committee carefully examined current options and considered every viable solution. These recommendations were not developed lightly. The team spent many hours reviewing data, discussing potential impacts, and focused not only on addressing immediate concerns, but also what will happen in the future. As a DVUSD educator and a member of the committee, I ask that you support the boundary changes and the work we put in to put students first. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brielle Wells. As a member of the Long Range Planning Committee, and I have 4 kids in the district, I'm happy we were finally given a few options submitted from the community with additional information from the demographer at our past meeting last week. But with 40% of the committee missing, it being the first time we've seen these maps, and only 3 business days ago, I don't believe we're ready to push this to a vote. There was no overview of the board study session at all during the committee meeting, nor was any other context given for those boundaries presented. Maps, just maps and demographer numbers. I learned the most at that committee meeting from a member who lives in Las Brisas and spoke up about what that boundary means for her school and her neighborhood. We could use more of that on the committee. For the district with the largest geographical boundaries in the area, we should also have a large geographical committee to make those decisions. I don't know if you guys have this already, but I passed this out, and I wanted to speak for a minute regarding that boundary on Casino that barely lost by a hair to the recommendations the committee made. The map here with the blue is what the community has been sending in. It's got 2 stars here for open enrollment bus routes. Now, back in March when we looked at open enrollment bus routes for those immersion kids, they were still within the Union Park boundaries. And so this boundary includes that small gated community that Heather Mock was talking about that is west of North Valley Parkway, excuse me. Because if you include that neighborhood in Union Park, then that open enrollment bus stop is also on that side, providing a safe alternative for those kids to get there. This is what we talked about. There was a lot of confusion here with rankings and what it was. This is what you're shown today, but I think that it's important to include a safe option for those kids on the west side for a bus route. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Cole. I have 3 children who will be attending Union Park this coming year, and they'll be affected by these boundary changes. When I was a kid, my parents had a favorite quote: "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result." Many of us are feeling a little bit of deja vu. The maps, the same faces standing here today to give the same feedback, many of the same questions unanswered, the same district representation dressed up with pretty words and to make it seem like something new was done this time. I am concerned about this boundary process. Families have spent months attending meetings, asking questions, providing feedback, and yet the maps being brought back to the board appear largely unchanged. Many concerns raised by the community remain unresolved, making it difficult for families to feel that their input has been meaningfully considered at all. Our suggestions are also being ignored. I repeat my previous statements, contributing to the deja vu. Union Park opened in 2020. The kindergarten class who started that year are entering 6th grade. These students have already faced enough instability, and they deserve to complete their time at Union Park before facing another major transition. Transportation is also not a small issue. Without continued busing, many families will effectively be priced out of their school community. For many families, it means choosing between their child's stability and their family's financial well-being. If students are going to be grandfathered in at Union Park, which is still up in the air and we keep getting different answers from different people, then at a minimum, I ask that those grandfathered students be bused, all of them, not simply the Spanish immersion. Finally, I would ask that this boundary change be delayed long enough for those students to finish their school career.
Hello, my name is Carissa Dean. I am here today to express my continued concerns regarding the district's efforts to revisit, potentially advance the current boundary change proposal despite the board's previous decision not to approve it. What is particularly concerning is that, from the public's perspective, very little appears to have changed since the proposal was last presented. The maps remain largely unchanged, many of the same questions remain unanswered, and discussions continue to focus heavily on Union Park and Norterra Canyon, despite the fact that this proposal impacts a significant number of K-8 schools throughout the Deer Valley district. Given the scope of complexity of these decisions, I'm struggling to understand the urgency behind bringing the proposal back for another vote so quickly. If implementation would not occur until the following school year, there appears to be ample time to conduct additional research, validate assumptions, gather meaningful community input, and ensure that the decisions that are being made are using accurate and complete information. Instead, families continue to see what it feels like a rushed process despite repeated requests for greater transparency and analysis. Several questions remain unresolved. Why is priority enrollment being considered in a manner that appears to favor temporary housing situations while long-term resident families continue to face uncertainty? What new information or analysis has been completed since the board's previous vote that justifies reconsidering the proposal? Why are discussions continuing to focus primarily on 2 schools when this impacts numerous K-8 campuses throughout the district? What specific deficiencies identified by the board members during the previous vote have been addressed? Additionally, concerns about the quality and accuracy of information presented by both the board and the public remain. Families have repeatedly identified presentation errors, typographical mistakes, and data inconsistencies in materials presented during every single meeting. While individual errors may seem minor, they undermine confidence in a process that relies heavily on public trust and accurate information. Thank you.
Who's first? Mrs. Fisher.
So it's only been 2 weeks since our last meeting. How many meetings have you held?
President Carver, Mrs. Fisher, the committee meets once a month.
Okay, so once. It's the summer months. How much of the committee was there?
President Carver, Mrs. Fisher, we had a couple members absent, and we are missing a parent member from Deer Valley. We had a wonderful parent who was there for the first meeting, and I think I stated this at the last presentation, that sometimes we've had about 3 or 4 parents drop out after saying that they were able to commit just because there's children take precedence and their schedules came first. So we had one parent, at least one parent absent, and a couple other staff members.
So how many total people were there?
9.
How many of them were community members?
It was balanced, half staff and half community members. I think it was 4 community and 5 staff.
Okay. I asked this question before. I've asked it multiple times, and I have yet to ever get an answer. Why are we rushing this? What is the benefit to force this down the community and rush it without the buy-in? Let's just play devil's advocate. Our community doesn't want this right now. They're not saying no, they're just saying not now. But we shove it down their throat, and the result is that they pull their kids. I guess that would resolve the overcrowding and reduce funding, and we can start laying off staff because we're losing all of our students. But I guess I don't understand what the benefit of shoving it down right now is. Can you give me anything that is drop dead? If we don't do this today, the world's going to end.
President Carver, Mrs. Fisher, members of the board, one thing that making the decision today allows us is a year's worth of implementation. So we get to take the implementation and transition very slow and make sure we cross every I and dot every T. Not only that, what I said to the committee at the first meeting of phase 2 was that we talked about districts like Mesa and Kyrene, some of those districts that had to make mid-year cuts. Our goal and the charge that I put to the committee is for us to avoid that at all costs. And so the sooner we make these decisions, the easier it is for us to avoid that. Because it allows the committee then to move forward into the next phase and continue to look at regions like Deer Valley High School that we haven't addressed yet that continues to decrease, and see if we can solve issues there. So we know that our enrollment's going to continue to decrease. We know these decisions need to be made, and we know that if we don't start making them, that it will increase the possibility that we will have to do something mid-year.
So I guess let me clarify my question. Is the drop dead so important benefit to the children?
I can jump in here.
Yeah, I'm asking.
No, because that's one thing she forgot. There's another variable and a couple more variables in the equation. One is, because we have heard from the community, hey, why don't we go till October, November of next year and spend more time on it? Well, in November, we're going to have a new board. And so that board, if it gets 2 new players that aren't here, they're going to want to, they'll be sitting in January, they'll want to start over, I'm assuming. They're going to want to look at it again through their eyes. And they're also not going to want to force the parents, so they're going to go another year or 6 months into the next year working on it, and then give the parents another year to adjust. So you're looking at 29. That's one variable. The second variable is you're going to have a new superintendent sitting here next year at this time. That's another variable in the equation. And if we don't think that TSMC is going to slow down, Dr. Zerbeck and I were just there today, and they are going to put 6 factories up, and they are working on number 3, and they are accelerating. So, and we just got approval for Pulte, and Mr. Carver sent me the actual map last week. I put it in your Friday update. It's coming, ready or not.
It still didn't answer my question. So if anybody here would like to answer a benefit to the children, not a benefit for the people who may have a financial gain, a builder's gain, or a political gain, a gain or a benefit for these children in the classrooms right now.
Mrs. Fisher, again, I reiterate that it gives us time to plan the transition correctly, to help the families and the students to make sure that we don't miss anything in the transition. And it allows the committee to move forward for the next phases, because it would be detrimental to the children to make changes like closing schools mid-year.
Ms. Mock, if I may, Ms. Fisher, do you happen to have the 2 slides from the last meeting where the principals from the 2 schools in question the most said where they're going to be next year with the congestion? Do you happen to have that?
President
handy?
Carver, we don't have it in this presentation, but it was actually information that they emailed Dr. Galligan directly, so it looks like she's about to pull that up if you have any questions on that.
Thank you.
Okay. I might jump around a little bit, but I'm kind of all over the place. So I did have a meeting with Mrs. Mock today. We talked about the maps. I reminded her that 2 weeks ago, or when we voted initially for the boundary changes, that if we didn't come back with some form of solid community engagement and solution, or took their ideas and put them into play, then I would still be voting no. And so today, we're still looking at the same map as the proposal, so I think you can all assume what my vote's going to be. But beyond that, I want to talk a little bit about looking at the districts more as a whole, where well, actually, you know what? We actually don't need to look at it as a whole. We can just look at it from a Barry Goldwater perspective. But when we're looking at the two Barry Goldwater maps, when we're looking at everything from Sunset Ridge down to Union Park, we're looking at two different maps. And I was told that we have to have it that way. And if you actually look at the map as a whole, there are other options and ways to divide those schools evenly and even out those numbers. And that has not been done. And when I suggested this idea of getting the big map of the Goldwater area for these schools on the the east side of the 17, I was told that the map is too expensive and that we can't do that, which is crazy to me because the internet is full of all the maps that we need. I mean, we have so much technology. We could probably AI the whole thing. And not that I'm suggesting that, but my point is that there is available maps. To say that because we don't have a big map, we can't implement an idea like this. But what we need to be doing, because this is what the community asked us to do, is we need to be looking at this area as a whole. So it doesn't need to be one or the other. It doesn't need to be Sunset Ridge needs to go, Sonoran needs to go over to Sunset Ridge and that's it, that, and then also moving the south boundary. You can just choose one, and the south boundary makes perfect sense because it would feed into North. So those are options. What I imagine when I spoke out earlier against all of this and was talking about the importance of community involvement, and what this really comes down to, because I was asked the question, like, what would it take? I take this role very seriously, and I take it seriously when it comes to students, and I take it seriously when it comes to our teachers. My job and what I feel like I was elected to do was to do what is best for our students as well as our teachers, and I'm trying to accomplish both. But the question of what does this do for our students today, it does nothing for them today. It disrupts their learning in an already crazy environment right now, and we are not taking those into consideration. Students, this is not a machine with little robots, okay? These are real people with feelings. These are families. These are things that kids hold on to all of their lives. And I understand that people think I'm just, picking a certain section out of this. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, okay? I'm talking about Sunset, Sonoran, Union Park, or Terra Canyon. And I haven't brought up the other area because we haven't heard that feedback from the community. But when a community comes in here and shares their concerns, and we just blow them off and provide them the same map over and over, we are not doing the service and what we're elected to do. I understand everyone here is hired, but the people that sit up here were elected by the people. And so we need to constantly be reminded of that and remember that that is who we represent, and we have to be their voice too. I also want to, just because we're throwing out ideas, which is exactly what this process should be. It should be bringing a variety of ideas together and then deciding what will work. Not being I asked the question today, were the members of the committee, did they make these maps? Or were they just provided them? And the answer is they were just provided them. They didn't really truly have a voice in what it should be. Now, if they were really a committee and discussing it, they wouldn't be provided a map with lines on it. They'd be provided with a map and said, let's get creative here and what we can do and put lines in here and then discuss that. That would be a committee that I could get on board with. But that is not what is happening here. This committee is being told what they get to vote on, and then we're presented with the same thing. Also, to get creative, Desert Mountain was a middle school originally. It's actually set up that way. And for you to, you brought the idea up, and I actually hadn't thought about that. We were thinking more of like North Terra Canyon, but Desert Mountain was designed as a middle school, so it already has that extra gymnasium and everything in it. So, I think we really need to be looking at all options here, and we're not doing. What was else? Oh, and also in regards to the committee, I think something that we get confused on and why we're jumping all over is because we're not consistently given the same numbers. So I asked today in our meeting how many people were missing, and it was 2, and then it was 1 more, and then I said, so 3 or 4, and then it was 4. And I said, what is the total group? and I was told 17. But then I just heard now saying that there were 9 people there, and that would be 13, not 17. So I'm not getting the right numbers here, and I really strongly believe that this committee is not, the community itself is not being represented in this community. I think we have a lot of administration and that we have less community involvement here, and I think that's done for a reason. I think it's because no one wants to just really sit down and hash this out and have really deep conversations about what would work best for all of our kids. And that's exactly what needs to happen. So I will continue to vote no, as long as you keep bringing me the same map, until you take this community's ideas and thoughts into consideration, because that's the people that I serve.
I just want to say that that's the way we used to do it before 2017. We had meetings with the community. They provided input. We discussed it back and forth. Longer conversations, actual meaningful conversations, map up there, make changes, do things, not a presentation with, you could choose A, you're gonna get a colonoscopy, or B, we're gonna do open heart surgery. Pick. Neither, I don't want either. None of those are a problem for me. We do that to people all the time. We're gonna add this or that, and you give them 2 bad choices, and well, too bad, you gotta pick a choice. The force strength is a well-known tool to force someone else's will on other people.
Mr. Botfield.
First, I've attended your meetings, and there are more than just committee members that attend the meetings, and that's something that isn't being considered here. The people who are not part of the committee end up speaking to the committee about their needs, wants, and desires. And that's something that we've overlooked in this conversation. That's number one. Number two, let me congratulate the committee on everything but the slides. And I'll pass on that.
Thank you, Mr. Botfield. Dr. Pack, would you like to take a swing?
You want to go first? Go ahead.
Oh, no, please.
Okay. All right. So I met with Dr. Galligan and Ms. Mock yesterday. That's Monday. And first of all, I want to thank both of you. I've done a lot of work on this. I can't imagine how many hours you put into it. And thank you to any community members that stayed on and have been there. Thank you to Mr. Swartfigger in transportation for stepping up, although I understand he wasn't at the meeting. I had the same question as Ms. Simachek, how many, so I'm going to cross it off my list because that's been addressed. You both shared with me yesterday that Mr. Swartfigger was not able to make it, and another community member had to drop out for family, children reasons. So it felt like everybody else was there, but now it feels like maybe not that many people were there. It was only one meeting. I did ask when the other meetings are, and I have them written down. I'm sure they're on the website. There's 2 or 3 more meetings, and so hopefully more people will be able to be in attendance. I did attend one meeting, Mr. Botfeld, you weren't there actually, but Mr. Carver and I it was an impromptu, let me run over and see if I can go listen. But to my understanding, when I first got on the board, because I ask all the newbie questions, that board members cannot participate in committee meetings. And the rule follower that I am, I just sat and listened. So it's a little alarming. Yes, we want to hear from the community, but board members can't participate. And so, didn't say you did, just want to say I was there. You weren't there, but I was there. While I would love to attend more of them, I know that I cannot participate. And so, but I do have one question for Ms. Mock or Mr. Brambert, the demographer. On slide number 10 in the latest demography report, 2005-26, which I have right here if you need it, it shows in the area of Sonoran Foothills and Sunset Ridge, a crosshatch of commercial, lots of commercial. But when I drove out there, there's all kinds of apartments, and they're not just, they're already built. There's like plants on their patios. So I'm confused how that could be determined as mostly commercial when I'm driving by all these mammoth, kind of ugly apartments. And maybe it's an older map. Maybe, I mean, they build things fast, I know.
You can turn on the podium for us, the mic. Thank you.
President Carver, Dr. Pack, Dr. Finch, my pleasure to be here tonight. The map is out of date. The base map in this area is developing so fast that a lot of what's being built doesn't even show up on the map. And I can assure you that we have an inventory of every square inch of land in this area, and it's updated every 6 months because we do work on an ongoing basis for the City of Phoenix Development Services Department to track ongoing development in this area and all around northern, the northern parts of Phoenix. And so, yes, those maps are awfully hard to read. It could provide something more like this that would show you what we actually are assuming in the area between Sonoran Parkway and Dove Valley Road. There's lots of multifamily. It's about 3,700 units. About 2,500 of those have been permitted. They're not all complete yet. Some of them are half complete. So there is more units coming, especially in that mile area. They're just not generating kids so far. Last year we got 7 out of that entire area. Now I might be 70 this year. I hope it is. But because they're just really occupying now. But the fact of the matter is that those units do not generate kids like single family houses do. And a lot of those built to rent ones, we call them the cottage units, you see, that look like a bunch of little monopoly houses. Those kinds of build to rent units typically don't generate students, hardly at all. There is build to rent planned up and around there, plenty of it, because they're realizing that people that are coming in to work at TSMC are coming from somewhere else. And they're expecting to be able to rent not only just a cottage, but an actual whole house. And they're building those too. And I think those are going to generate plenty of kids. Now, when we look at the mile north then from Dove Valley Parkway up to Carefree Highway, there's only one parcel left in there right now that's designated for residential development, and that's 280 more multifamily units that currently don't have an actual plan on them. All the rest of that area has been purchased either by the hospital groups. There's 3 hospitals that now own about a total of 140 or so acres. There's 60 acres set aside for office development. That might change over time, and it's a good reason to keep monitoring because that could happen. But other than that, the rest of it was just purchased by Vestar, or is going to auction on the 26th. What is that, Friday? Vestar brought that property to auction, 160 acres. It's going to be almost all retail and other kinds of services. I would expect that they might sneak a multifamily component into that footprint, but again, it's going to be high-end, high-density kind of stuff. So, in the bottom mile, I would say, between Sonoran Parkway and Dove Valley Road, it's a lot of multifamily, and yes, it's about half there. So far, we're not getting kids, but I think we will get some. But that next mile north, there's just really not much more potential. So the enrollment that we have coming out of that area now between Dove Valley Road and Carefree Highway is pretty much what we're going to get. And it's probably going to decline over time as those neighborhoods age. Now, there's some areas out further west, if you can imagine the area north of Copper Leaf on the north side of Dove Valley Road. There's 2 large parcels up there that will have about 1,000 housing units on them. Neither one of them has water or sewer, and probably isn't going to for about 5 years. But when that project cracks, we'll get about 1,000 housing units come in there in 3 years. They've got that thing on a short fuse, so as soon as they get services, those parcels will build like crazy. Because Copperleaf was such a successful project for both Lennar and Pulte. They're licking their chops to get across the street and keep on going on that. So I really do want to give you, again, I can't answer all the questions. I don't have, perfectly, good crystal ball, but we do our research. I can tell you that. I know what land use is planned up there. I can tell you that.
And if I am correct, your final of your demographer's report was finalized as a final, not a draft, in May, which is last month. So while I appreciate the building, they throw those buildings up quickly, and every 6 months the landscape changes.
It's the base map that we were using that can't keep up.
Right.
So I did obtain additional photography from the city of Phoenix so that we can closer update, make the maps look more like reality.
So as Ms. Simichek asked about a map, and everything costs money, of course, but how much would it cost, without putting you on the spot, to have some updated maps? And I know we don't have money, but we spent $11,000 mailing out these mailers about a 4:30 meeting that the board didn't discuss, and I signed the voucher. So there's $11,000 I could have bought a map. So I feel like some of these situations where the map's not updated, and I drove out there, and I know several board members have spent our gas driving around, and wow, there's a lot going up there, but it's concerning. I did have the pleasure, again, I value your expertise, Mr. Brammer. I had the pleasure of hearing you speak at the Arizona School Board Association meeting, and something that stuck with me was that because of ESAs and charters and people moving in and out and TSMC and all these things happening, I believe, paraphrasing now since I don't have it in front of me, that you said something to the effect that because of all that, it's extremely difficult to, and of course the demographer's report is a guesstimate, as Dr. Finch has shared, but I believe you would paraphrase that it's extremely difficult to come up with numbers for specific grades of students. And since we're looking at 8th graders, so I don't know if you have any more to share with that. I was trying to pay attention at that conference.
It's the concept of separating the demographics and the school-age population from students enrolled in the Deer Valley Unified School District. And it used to be, when I started doing this almost 40 years ago, I hate to admit, you actually went to the school you were told to go to for the most part. And it made doing projections very scientific. If I knew how many students or school-age persons, I should say, were living in a neighborhood, I knew I was going to lose 5% to parochial schools, and the other 95% were going to be in your school. And now, when you have a service rate in your district of, let's say it's around 60%, so you take that whole school-age population, and only 60% of them come to you at all. So you got that in the wind, and then of the 60% that come to you, only about 65% go to the school that they're designated to go to begin with. And what I was trying to say in that speech was, between layering those 60% and 60%, it becomes very indirect in some ways of who lives in a neighborhood and who attends the school that's theoretically serving that neighborhood. And it doesn't make it any easier. One of the board members said something, though, that was very astute and right on, which was that we draw these lines today, and in reality, even if we decided to vote for these tonight, and I'm not saying you should, but no one's going to move next year just because you voted. It's going to take 3 or 4 years to actually see the impact of this with people who come into the neighborhood and think that that's the status quo. And that's okay. That should be that way. I think it's great that we have the flexibility to enable that kind of a transition. A bad thing, but it does make it extremely difficult to do projections.
Thank you for clarifying that. My next question is for Ms. Mock. Thank you, sir.
You betcha.
More of a clarification for Ms. Mock or Dr. Galligan. When I met with you yesterday, I was talking about one of the community members has suggested, or several people, I can't remember, it's all running together, doing the middle school concept. And you had shared, one of you, I can't remember, said, those schools aren't built for that because they don't they're not, like, they're a K-6 model as far as the gym or the lunchroom. But now hearing about Desert Mountain, that's, I would ask that that be looked at, because that is a K-8 school, and
You want that one, Heather, or go ahead?
Well,
or maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Dr. Pack, I was maybe going to throw this one to Dr. Finch, because it's not, in that case, it's not about the building, right? The first argument in, let's make Norterra Canyon a K-8 is that it's not equipped to be. But Deer Valley as a district decided that the best educational model for our students was the K-8 model, not the middle school, and that's why we stopped building middle schools and K-6 schools. And so I don't know if Dr. Finch or Dr. Galligan would like to add to that.
The only thing I could think of would be transportation would triple, because you'd be getting all the 8th graders from all those schools, so that would be a major problem as well. And Desert Mountain is at the end of the road, so it's not a dead end spot for it, so that would make it pretty expensive.
President Carver, Dr. Pack, when Desert Mountain was open, my daughter went to that school. It was a 5-8 school. So it was a bit broader than 7-8, but it truly was built so it could encompass that middle school component. It's a very unique school, but as Heather mentioned, Deer Valley made the decision that K-8 schools was the model that gave our kids the best opportunity to grow into high school.
And yet we do still have middle schools in our system currently. And
President Carver, Dr. Pack, we have 3.
We have 3, yep. And no one in Arizona is building middle schools anymore. It's all K-8s.
Could you provide us when that vote occurred that we decided it would be that other model and not any junior highs?
Mr. Carver and Ms. Fisher, we can certainly go back and find that. My daughter is now 40, so it was a number of years ago, but we can find that out for you.
So was it prior to the junior highs being built?
No.
Mrs. Fisher, no, I think Legend Springs and Copper Creek were our last 2 K-6s. Every school after that was decided by the board when whomever before me brought it to the board for approval for construction, approved it as a K-8. So the board would have had the choice every time administration brings a recommendation forward to add a school. So the last school we approved was Inspiration Mountain. When we brought that as an item to the board, it was to open it as a K-8. Well, originally a K-6, and then we added the K-8.
Well, I can understand that, but that's not what was stated. So I'm just trying to, because this board can decide that we're no longer going to operate that way, because one board cannot decide what a future board's going to decide. So I just want to point that out.
I now have a rabbit hole to go down and research on what's good for kids.
There is another variable too, our parent community has gravitated to the K-8 because they can keep one band load. They don't have to go to 2 schools, so that makes sense as well. That's been the evolution of it over time, because you don't see anyone in Arizona building middle schools anymore.
All right, so community members out there, send us emails on your thoughts on Diamond, on a middle school. Okay, moving on. I had a question or clarification somewhere in this presentation when the slides are going kind of quick after they popped up, and I was trying to flip through all these pages. It was stated that we do not transport pre-K, but don't we transport pre-K kiddos that have it's in their IEPs, the SPED kids?
Correct. Dr. Pack, President Carver, members of the board, yes, I said that in my statement as well, that it's transportation is required for developmental preschool in their IEP, we transfer. But if it's a community ed preschool or a Head Start preschool, a typical peer for developmental, we would not transport them.
Okay, thank you. And then there was another one. It was stated by whoever up here stated it, that we're might have been Dr. Finch, that we're going to have new board members in November. The election's in November. They won't sit on the board till January. So if we decide to sit on this a little longer and absorb everything that we just learned in the last 24 hours, at least for me, September, October is not when the new board comes on. Okay, so just a statement. Okay, So first, and I think I already said it, but I'm going to say it again, thank you to Ms. Mock and Dr. Galligan for all the extensive amount of work you've done. Considerable amount of time is put into this. The long-range planning committee, I know we've been doing this too long because I can now use the acronym LRPC. I met on the 18th, and now this evening we're hearing of these options. So again, thank you for the options because I asked for options. I need time to process options, and some of the options were an option like casino, but not going all the way for a bus on the west side. And I now have a binder with tabs with all the information so I can understand it better. But having just gotten this evening with updated options, again, I personally need time. But the board and the community need time to analyze, reflect, and discuss. Another thing I'd like to share is that with a new committee member on transportation, I'm thankful we have a new committee member on transportation because buses are a part of this whole thing with grandfathering and buses on this side of the street and buses on that side of the street. So that's good. So thank you again for that. But I understand we'll be backfilling another community member, and so there are people on the board that I haven't, either due to absence or being installed on the board, haven't had a chance to process all these, get caught up to speed and be given all the options. So there's that concern. But again, I want to keep saying progress is being made. Yay. Thank you again for everybody putting in the hours and the hours. But as one community member said, timelines are neither long enough or thorough enough for life-altering decisions. Another community member said, please give us the time and the ability to make this right. And nobody's saying not to change boundaries, but doing it, as I like to say, with intention and thoughtfulness. And I have to dot my I's and cross my T's before I vote on something to make sure I understand that, at the end of the day, I know at the end of the day, after a vote, not everyone's going to be happy, but having the time, effort, and being thoughtful, intentional, doing due diligence, considering cost, transportation, children's well-being right up there on top. Only then can I feel comfortable making an informed decision, always keeping children at the forefront of decisions. So with that, I would make a motion that we amend the proposal to just vote on the non-contentious ones and the ones that we just got options for, tabling that till September or October.
If I may.
You may.
Okay, if you could.
I have more because I have this whole binder, but.
If I could get my spiel out. And
yes.
Then, we'll see what we come up with options, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First of all, I want to thank the board members that have taken the time to sit down and visit and gain a greater understanding. That's a huge step, so thank you. And I want to thank the committee for hearing what was said at the last study session and meeting those requirements as you've done every time before. So what I would like is, can we get the options slide back up on our screens, please? As soon as we get to that point, I've got a little bit that I'd like to share. You know which one I'm talking about, Dr. Galligan?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Should be the last side of the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. So to Dr. Pack's point, I think we would be disingenuous as a board if we couldn't say that we could come to a couple of agreements tonight and move forward on something. So I'd like to break this into small pieces, because how do we eat an elephant, Dr. Pack? One bite at a time. Okay. So
one bite at a time.
Boulder Creek Region 1, I'd like to amend the original motion to accept the committee's recommendation to take the Boulder Creek Region 1 recommendation as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion about that?
I want to caution the board that the last time we had board members suddenly piece things together and we're going to just do this and that and we're going to accept this and we're going to do that, we ended up bringing back in standard-based grading under a mask. And our students are still stuck with standard-based grading.
Not true.
Which really disenfranchises the high performers and gives the low performers a pass to go through the
Talking
system
about
without an
boundaries tonight,
education.
Mrs. Fisher, if you could stay on
Actually, the
topic,
last
please.
time we piecemealed, we ended up with Las Brisas and Union Park issues. So.
Disagree.
The point behind what I'm trying to do here for the information, for the community's information, is it was brought up by several board members over the last couple meetings that we needed options. And that to have one complete yes or no was entirely unacceptable. So this has been broken down into small pieces for us. I'd like for us to discuss these options one at a time and try to come to some sort of agreement on something that we might be able to move on, and then what is actually left that needs to be discussed. We haven't heard from anybody in the Anthem area that I'm aware of that has any problem moving that apartment complex to the Anthem school piece.
Right.
So there's currently a motion and a second to accept the Boulder Creek region. Does anybody else want to discuss the way that that's drawn or anything that we could do to make sure that we could get that piece done?
Do we have any parents here who would have input? Because it's really the parents that are speaking up and letting us know how it impacts them, or community members. That would be my greatest concern, because this is their children.
I think what President Carver is saying is that we haven't had any people contacting with these concerns. So if we can.
Is that accurate? We haven't had any concerns at all whatsoever in that area.
President Carver, Mrs. Fisher, we have not. We had our very first public forum was January 21st, I believe, at Boulder Creek. We had about 30 people in attendance. Some of them were from Norterra Park or Norterra Canyon Union Park area. Some were from the Boulder Creek area. We answered any questions we had. Most of the feedback, the majority of the feedback we've received is Union Park, Norterra Canyon, followed secondly by Sonoran Foothills, and but nothing I've received for Anthem or Canyon
I'm just
Springs.
double checking, because I've gotten, I know everybody wants to just blame Union Park, but I've gotten emails from all kinds of schools and all kinds of, and they're not, it's not just one program or just one set of students or just one school. I just want to make sure we are not blindly running them over. So we haven't heard anything at all?
I think we're hearing from Sunset, Sonoran, Norterra Canyon, and Union Park. And I think that if we take the time to put that in one map, instead of sectioning, we can work through the whole thing. And I think that, yeah, I think that as far as the Boulder Creek zone goes, that is, we haven't had any complaints with that one or any feedback.
And you don't see any impact for the women or anything at all?
Thank you, Ms. Simicek.
Okay.
And to clarify, Boulder Creek is Canyon Springs Anthem.
Yes.
Yes, it's this map. For the community, this is the map we're looking at. Most of you have seen this a dozen times.
Can
All
you
those in
scroll to
favor?
that so the community can see? Just for the. No.
It hasn't popped up yet. No, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to throw this at you. I know it's not easy. Maybe I'll hit show voting. Oh, there it is.
So just to clarify, you're going to go do this on each one?
I'm going to take each one of these three
Perfect.
regions so that we can have a conversation.
Okay. Perfect.
And that way Ms. Mock will know exactly what we have left to work with.
Perfect.
Does that sound fair?
Does.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion on this first point, well, I'm sorry, they're trying to get the map up. There it is. Nope, back. There you go. So this is just that tiny sliver on the east side of I-17, mostly populated by apartment complexes.
I'm not getting my.
Go up there and click show voting. And see if it pops up. There it is. Okay. Anything further to discuss on this one piece? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting this portion?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm going to take your word for it, ladies, because I don't trust the dishonesty that we've had in the past. So I'm hoping you guys are spot on with this one.
That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Mrs. Taylor, could we go back to the options page, please, so everybody can see the same thing? Next region was Sandra Day O'Connor. And if we can't come to an agreement and vote yes on things, that's cool, because that's what we're here for. Okay, well, let's just try to break this into small pieces. Because anything we can agree on, it does give us that time that we were all asking for in the beginning. So Sandra Day O'Connor, the way that it's being presented is 1A and 1A and 2A, which I believe are the only options being presented for Sandra Day, which pretty much just encompasses future growth on the one map on 1A.
And can you clarify, I believe I have it right, but which schools are in that? You're calling it by the high school, but.
Inspiration Mountain. On 1A, it's Inspiration Mountain and Stetson Hills and Canyon Springs on 1A.
Thank you.
And it's all the future growth out in what we used to affectionately call Biscuit Flats, now North Park and Halo Vista.
Trying not to get confused here, I have a question on the Inspiration Mountain Stetson one and the Inspiration Mountain Las Brisas one. So which one are you on?
2A is going to be the other piece. 2A is this map.
Do we need to pull that map up? Dr. Galligan, can we go to the next slide, please?
My question on that map is the gentleman that talked about not cutting it through the neighborhood, and I have a map from somebody that showed they fixed that, so it's not cutting through the street. Has that been addressed? That would be a concern if that was not addressed.
So we're talking about the diagonal line cutting through the Inspiration Mountain that would move to Las Brisas, right? It doesn't look like it lines up with a particular road, so I think the board's asking for clarification on that. Are you following me, Ms. Mock?
President Carver, Dr. Pack, and I'm not sure which side of the boundary, but the northernmost boundary follows 55th Avenue. It goes to, I think, about approximately 57th Avenue on the west at Happy Valley. There's a small neighborhood there that's encompassed, and then just north there is where 55th Avenue picks up, and then it goes all the way up to the entrance to Deem Hills Park and encompasses everything southeast of there all the way to the eastern border, that small area between 51st Avenue, 49th Avenue along Saddlehorn Road.
Okay, I'm looking at a map that I'm not sure who gave to me now, but I'm probably a community member. It was a suggestion, and it's Las Brisas, but streamlined to not go through someone's home, neighborhoods stay together. And I'd like to walk it over to you and show it to you. It's like that, but it's colored in, so you're not cutting through a street like that one.
Dr. Pack will happily take that after the meeting, but the committee has not discussed that. So the motion for tonight would be to either place this item on a motion or not. But we can take a look at that in the future.
Yeah. I'm with you on answering that question. So, I mean, I think it should be held.
Yeah, so
We need to hold this.
I need this answered before I can vote on this.
Yeah, it follows 55th. And it's not a straight line. That's why that map doesn't line up with it.
Can we have a better map? This one,
It's not straight line. That's why
that's the same map colored in, so it's obvious.
it follows 55th.
I want to drive down there, so I'll wait.
Okay,
No, hold that one.
so let's break this one into smaller pieces. And we'll make a motion to accept 1A, the area of future growth.
And 1A is this one?
1A is the other one. This one that's on the map right here. That's on the screen.
So moved.
Okay. Any conversation about the area that's currently undeveloped?
No.
Yeah, we got a second from Mr. Botfeld.
Board approved Sandra Day O'Connor boundary change 1A.
1A. Yeah. Correct. All those in favor?
Aye.
But there it is. They're gonna be there.
I'll be an eye on that, but not on this one.
This is the vacant land one.
Yes. Yep, this piece right here. This is everything on the other side of the hill. This is TSMC.
This is just in case we can't pass a bond in the future.
Yeah.
That's where the school, well, the kids will go.
Okay, so let's give some direction to Ms. Mock on 2A if we don't feel comfortable that we can vote on that tonight. I'm sorry, you need votes.
We don't have Ms. Fisher's vote.
Just your vote.
No, I cannot vote. We're piecemealing, and I think we're going to damage.
So that passes 4-1 for that
Thank you,
motion.
Ms. Taylor.
Okay, give me a second.
Okay, so let's have a conversation about 2A and what the board's looking for from Ms. Mock's committee.
I would like a map that shows the streets that are, I mean, I want to physically go out there and drive it, because I've driven the other ones, but this one I haven't, so I just want to see what it looks like. I want to make sure it's not going through someone's yard.
So
Ditto.
we're just asking for time.
Or a map that shows all the streets that are outlined in yellow. Sorry. All the streets, or all the boundary that's yellow, so right here, sorry.
Right.
You're saying that's 55th?
Correct. Follows 55th, which is a straight line, but that's why it's outlined in yellow
Yeah.
to
that
show
needs
the
to be
zone.
looked at.
We could ask the demographer, but is that run along 55th, correct?
It is correct. It's 55th Avenue.
Which would fit our guidelines of following major roads.
And I think the exception and why it might look a little different is that there is a neighborhood that's roughly 57th Avenue and Happy Valley, which is not a major road. 55th is just east of that. So it encompasses that neighborhood and then picks up 55th Avenue just northeast of that neighborhood.
And I did have a question. I believe Las Prisas is K6 and Inspiration Mountain is K8. So if we're moving kids. Okay, so are we moving kids K6 to K8? So it's okay because you can't move kids from K8 to K6.
You go to Hillcrest, right?
Correct. They would be going to Hillcrest. So Las Brisas students and Desert Sage students go to Hillcrest.
Okay, so specifically for Ms. Mock, we're looking for her to bring us what to consider 2A? Just a better map?
I want
Better
a
map.
clear map. A
Better,
very clear map.
more clear map.
A clearer map so that we can see how the boundaries work.
Fair enough,
So
okay.
Are we tabling
We would like to,
2A?
yes. Well, we're not going to do anything with 2A, and we're going to send it back to the committee, so if we want to call that a table.
Or you can pull your motion. You're the person that made it, so you can pull your motion.
No one made a motion.
Yeah,
on
we
this
haven't
one
made a
yet.
motion on 2A yet.
I thought you did. Oh, okay.
I move that this be sent back to the committee for review so that we can vote on it next time.
Map 2A
So
for
that
Sandra Day
is-
O'Connor.
2A.
And I need a second,
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Semchak, appreciate it.
and then I'm gonna send you the motion. You look at it. Is that correct? Mr. Carver, is that the correct motion?
Yes. Thank you.
Votes,
That's fine.
Oops.
votes.
Oh, votes, yes, votes, please. I said oops. Okay.
We need 2 votes. Dr. Peck? Thank you. Motion to table 2A is 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, the Goldwater region. We're going to try to keep this slow and steady. There's 3 different things in Goldwater. There's 1A, 2A, and 3A, which are all different areas.
Well,
Two-
some of those areas overlap. though.
2A is just Paseo Hills,
That's correct.
okay? I'd like to make a motion that we accept. I'm sorry, what happened?
He keeps flipping around.
You
the
okay?
screen.
All right. That we accept BGHS map 2A,
Second that motion.
okay? Any conversation about changing the Paseo Hills designation of that undeveloped area at this point.
2A, right? Mhm. That is Mr. Carver.
There's a second?
And that was Mr.
Second.
Botfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Botfeld.
Okay, let's look at the vote, the motion. Does that motion look correct, Mr. Carver?
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion passes 4-1.
Okay. So we have 1A and 3A left. We're not going to touch 1A just right now because we know that's the ick, right? So 3A carries with it a 3B, and 3B carries with it the fireside piece. So I think the last two maps that are left are the ones that the board wants to chew on a little bit more. Does that sound about right? Okay.
And chew on, meaning not next meeting, not July, not one of our next meeting is July, not July 7th, I think.
What direction can we give the committee?
They have until November.
How, or at least they have another meeting.
Right.
Need to have a
They
meeting.
have them once a month, so they can give us an update at any time, and we don't have to accept it, right? So let's give them a direction so that when they meet next month, they've got something to work on for these two, I'm going to say two maps in these two maps in these two regions, right? We have Sandra Day 2A, and then we've got the Goldwater piece. And because 3 encompasses a little bit of the 1, that's all kind of one conversation.
Yeah,
So,
I think Barry Goldwater should be looked at as a whole. Like all of those schools on the.
right, instead of separating it, because 3B encroaches on the 1s,
Yes, yeah.
we need to delineate that a little bit better. Mrs. Fisher, do you have
And
something?
we also need to keep in mind, parents need to get back in town. If they're vacating, wherever they are during summertime, get their kids back in school and whatnot. Trying to push this on top of them, and then we're gonna cut them off. There's not a reason, there won't be a new board sat in November, even if the board completely changes in November. It won't take seat until January. Give our families a break. Give them until at least the meeting in November to come together, to discuss this, to do a couple of committee meetings, get their kids in school. I don't know why we are shoving this so hard on them without basic respect for them.
Question, I have it written down somewhere in this binder, Ms. Mock, but can you please tell us the next long-range planning committee meeting dates?
Dr. Pack, President Carver, members of the board, yes, it is July 30th. We tried to stagger the June and the July meetings so that June was as early as possible and that July was late as possible because we know parents might be, and even some of our staff might be out for summer vacation. And and then all of the rest of the meetings are on the website, dvusd.org/boundaries.
Thank you, Ms. Mock.
Then I need to stop and look it up real quick. So 7:30 and 8.
I think it's helpful to point out that's only a couple of days before the school year starts, correct?
Right, so the point I'm trying to make is, they meet in July on 7:30, and then they meet in August, whatever date that is on the website, and then they meet once in August, I think, you meet once a month, and then once in September. So that's 3. So if we set, maybe let's talk again in October, maybe not wait till November, but talk in October, then we have time to get parent feedback, time for the board, all the members that are on the board to meet, or on the committee, meet at least 3 more meetings, and have some more time for us to process this and think of it as a whole.
I would agree to talk in October, maybe have a study session where the parents can come and give their actual input.
Yes.
And then just move the vote to November. So have the actual community in October.
So
November.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. I'm not trying to rush anything, but if they meet, they might as well give a presentation, and then we can give feedback. And then if we want another study session, that's what you're asking for, then we schedule that when the board can meet. But there's no reason if they're going to meet in between our meetings that we just don't have them give us an update. And if it's something that we can't swallow yet, then we just keep tabling it until we get it all worked out.
I'm comfortable with that, meet and report with no anticipated vote going in the newspaper or anything of that nature.
I mean, it can either be given as a board report or as old business, and if nobody's comfortable, it just gets voted down or it gets tabled. So I guess my only point is if they do get it resolved and we just keep waiting, and when they've already got it done, then why not just bring it up? And if it meets everybody's expectations in July, great, and it'll be voted on in August. And if not, then in August they'll meet and we'll talk about.
Because in July, parents are gone, and
No,
July.
I get it, yeah. That's cool.
So I think no vote.
I think we're all on the same page. I'm just trying to make sure that if there is an option then, and there the ability, then we can. And if there isn't, then we just keep doing what we've been doing.
As long as it can be on the agenda as an update without an attached vote.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So.
And please don't send out any more $11,000 postcards. Let's talk first.
That's state statute.
What direction are we
have to
giving Ms. Mock's committee on the 2 remaining maps? We've already given her direction on Sandra Day.
I'll send you the state statute, Ms. Fisher.
What direction are we giving Ms. Mock's committee? Does everybody feel like you've already given what she needs?
Yeah.
Just ask
Okay.
her. Ms. Mock, do you feel you have what you need?
President Carver, Mrs. Fisher, the one thing that I heard for sure and that I took from the meeting I had with Ms. Simichek earlier and what she just said is, and she said the entire Goldwater region, I think really what we're focusing on is Sonoran Foothills, Union Park, Norterra Canyon, and those 3 schools together. I think what we struggle with, if you have any additional direction, sometimes the maps are too big and you can't see the streets. Sometimes we're too zoomed in. So we will work on the clarity of the maps and providing many different facets of the maps to include a more zoomed out portion of that area, mark on there where the schools are, and then come back into the zoomed in area with clearer maps of exactly where the boundary is drawn. So if I misunderstood, please let me know, but that is what I heard.
Yeah, I think looking at like I said, everything on the east side of the 17 in the Goldwater region. But what I think our community really wants some options. So like what we talked about is looking at it as a whole map, like we did, and maybe putting the Sonoran and we already talked about it, But also like within this area, what are options we can do, and looking at those numbers of what the enrollment would look like at each school or the population at each school.
My only hesitation is you heard from the teachers this evening. If you make a decision in November, pick a date, October, November, as long as you don't punt it for another year, it's still in for the next year, then it's probably doable. But as we know, Union Park is already past capacity, and it's only going to get worse next year, and it's only get worse the following year. So as long as the parents know up front that even though the time for the decision is crunched, the implementation is probably going to stay the same, because the problems at Union Park are not getting better, or Sonoran.
Right. Okay, so the motion that we're looking for is to table
Goldwater boundary change 2A and 3A for further review. Is that
2A, I believe we're accepting. We accepted that in the previous vote. That was Paseo Hills.
so? Just 3A?
It was 1A and 3A are the 2 maps left.
1A
So we have a
and
total
3A.
of 3 maps, one in the Sandra Day area and 2 in the Goldwater. 1A and 3A.
Okay.
And to clarify, that is to table Union Park, Norterra, and Sunset Ridge, Sonoran Foothills.
Yes,
So
that's what those maps entail. Yes, ma'am.
change 1A and 3A for further review.
For further review.
Okay, so that's your motion?
Yes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Simichek. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, now you can vote. Pack? Mr. Boutfeld?
My computer is off.
So you vote?
How did you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. That's where everybody takes it. Right? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Simichek. Next up on the agenda, call to the public. Dr. Pack. Well, I think you have 7 because, don't you?
All right, the same admonition applies for public speakers. Let's have Steve Soddy, Andrea Cohen, Leslie Feldman, Aaron Arnold, Sam Casanova, and Kelly Fisher approach the microphone. And state your name before you speak, please.
All right, you ready for me? All right, my name's Stephen Soddy. I am a dad of 2 in the district. I'm here to start organizing a recall effort. She's not going to resign. Nazis don't resign. Right now I have a form. If you'd like to be sent the link, you can meet me. I'll be here after the meeting. The clock starts once the petition is filed. That's 120 days to gather 24,000 signatures. It's a very high order. So if we organize before we submit that petition and get that clock rolling, we can actually get her out and stop having a Nazi on our board. Thank you.
President Carver, members of the board, my name is Andrea Cohen. I'm Senior Director of Jewish Life at the Center for Jewish Philanthropy of Greater Phoenix. I'm here today to support the students, parents, educators, and staff of the Deer Valley District. They deserve better from elected officials tasked with the decision-making and leadership of this district. They deserve leaders who uphold the raised values on your website: respect, accountability, integrity, student-driven, and excellence. The Deer Valley community deserves leaders that stand up in the face of bullying and bad behavior. The Deer Valley community deserves leaders who choose their words and actions carefully. As we expect our students to make appropriate word choices, we expect our elected leaders to understand the harm caused by the normalization and use of Nazi language and imagery. These words and symbols are dangerous, reckless, and harmful. They make our community less safe and model deplorable behavior. The Deer Valley community deserves leaders that hold one another accountable. While disagreement is expected among board members, behavior deemed as unacceptable in our classrooms is not okay. Just because an incident has passed, it does not mean that the impact has lessened over time. People are still upset. The Center for Jewish Philanthropy would like to offer our educational resources and those of our partner organizations to help the Deer Valley District create a culture district-wide to speaks to your raised values. Our student-to-student program brings Jewish juniors and seniors to social studies classrooms to share their diverse experiences growing up Jewish to students who may not have had the opportunity to ask questions about Jews and Judaism before. Our PJ Library program provides free books and resources to K-8 teachers that speak to Jewish holidays and experiences. And we are always happy to help decode the Jewish calendar and ensure that your Jewish family's major holidays are recognized and testing and events are held accordingly. We want to be a resource for you and the families and educators. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Feldman, and I'm the Executive Director of the Phoenix Holocaust Association. I'm here to address an issue that has become an ongoing topic of concern among many community stakeholders. Symbols, gestures, and language matter, particularly when they carry historical weight and real-world consequences. Seeing an elected school board official use one of the most recognizable symbols of hate and dictatorship during an official public meeting sends a troubling message. I am here to help. Phoenix Holocaust Association works with teachers throughout Arizona to ensure they are adequately fulfilling our state's Holocaust and Genocide Education Mandate, HB 2241, which passed in 2021. I do hope that you, the district's governing board, are ensuring fulfillment of this mandate in your middle and high schools. We are your partners in doing so. We have 60 Holocaust survivors living in the Phoenix metropolitan area. I personally invite all of you to our next monthly Holocaust survivor luncheon, so you can meet some of them in person in an intimate setting, and in doing so, be reminded of your responsibility as educational leaders to model civic behavior and historical awareness, as our survivors are the most striking examples of what happens when those in leadership capacities fail to do so. Phoenix Holocaust Association will be happy to bring survivors or descendants to your classrooms to share firsthand accounts of where unchecked hateful rhetoric and symbols can lead. Only 2 Deer Valley schools are documented as having requested speakers from our Speakers Bureau this past year. This is small in comparison to many other districts in the Valley. We are happy to organize virtual programs like we do for the Chandler Unified School District, where thousands of students across their schools have the opportunity to hear from survivors all at the same time. I also hope that you encourage school leadership to promote our free October Educators Conference, where subject experts and renowned historians will provide participating teachers with a wealth of resources so they have the tools they need to teach about this period of history. I invite all of you to attend as well.
Hello, Aaron Arnold. Good evening, President Carver, members of the board, and Superintendent Fitch. I'm here tonight to once again ask for the resignation of the board member that put a black mark on our district, not only nationally, but internationally. At the last meeting, many community members, educators, parents, students, and local organizations expressed their outrage and disappointment regarding this member's decision to raise her arm in a Nazi salute. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a slip of the tongue. This was not a joke that simply landed poorly. It was a deliberate action that invoked one of the most recognizable symbols of hate, anti-Semitism, and oppression in the world. As an educator, I spend my days teaching students the importance of character, accountability, and learning from mistakes. When students make poor choices, we expect them to take responsibility for their actions and understand the impact those actions have on others. The same standard should apply even more so to elected officials entrusted with serving our community and making decisions for our children. The issue before us is larger than one gesture or one phrase. It's all about trust. It's about whether the families, students, and staff of this district can have confidence that their elected representatives will conduct themselves with dignity and professionalism for their positions and their positions require. I am also concerned with the tone and discourse that have become increasingly common during the board meetings. Disagreement is expected. Debate is healthy. However, dismissiveness, inflammatory rhetoric, personal attacks, and behavior that generates division rather than the solutions do not serve our students. Our community deserves better. The educators, the parents, and the students of this district deserve leaders who can disagree respectfully while remaining focused on the mission of public education. I recognize that one board member's resignation cannot solve every challenge facing our district. However, accountability matters, standards matter, and the example we set matters. For those reasons, I respectfully renew my request that this board member resign from the Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board. Our students are watching, our staff is watching, our community is watching. Let's show the leadership, accountability, and respect still matter.
Good evening. My name is Sam Casanova. I'm a teacher at Barry Goldwater High School, Teacher Casanova in the classroom, and I'm here today to ask for the resignation of a board member. My concern is with the fact that this member chose to use a Nazi salute and speak the words Heil Heil. Rather than offering constructive criticism that could lead to positive reform, they chose an exaggerated symbol of hatred and oppression based on how they perceived the situation. Feeling that someone has treated you unfairly cannot be equated with the atrocities that happened. Nazi symbolism carries the weight of one of the darkest chapters in history. It's not meant for simple frustration. And I actually know that because I'm a DVUSD graduate myself, and my history teachers taught me well. We ask our schools to build students towards the portrait of a graduate. If a former student from this district behaved this way in a meeting years from now, we would wonder if we failed them somewhere along the way. District leadership should represent the standards we expect from students, not fall below them. There is no meaningful consequences here. The message is not one person made a mistake. The message becomes this behavior is acceptable. And not only acceptable for an individual, but for someone elected to represent this district and its families. Representation carries responsibility, and I do not believe these actions represent me or the values we have as a district. This is why I'm asking for the board member to resign. Thank you for your time.
My name is Kelly Fisher. I'm speaking tonight regarding the anti-Semitic words and actions of one of our governing board members.
Ms. Fisher, 1 second. Just remember that you only have a minute.
Yep,
I believe the
thank
clock's
you.
going to show you 2, so, okay?
Thank you.
you.
The calls for resignation are not about politics. They are not about party affiliation. The outrage expressed by educators, staff, students, families, and community members stems from one thing: the board members' decision to engage in anti-Semitic actions and remarks that have no place in our schools, our community, or any civil society. This board member has repeatedly attempted to portray themselves as the victim of political persecution. That narrative is false. People are demanding accountability because of what they did, not because of what they believe. In fact, it is particularly troubling to hear claims that call for the resignation are rooted in anti-Christian bias. There is nothing Christian about spreading hate, invoking symbols associated with genocide, or refusing to take responsibility for the harm caused by one's actions. Leadership requires accountability. When elected officials make mistakes, they are expected to acknowledge them, apologize, and work to repair the damage. Instead, this...
Mrs. Fisher, that's a minute.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Board reports.
No, I have a right to.
They did not mention your
They
name.
named you, Mrs.
No, it is
Fisher.
They did not.
actually written.
No, not allowed. They didn't mention your name.
It is actually written not only also in law.
Not true.
It is true.
Mrs. Fisher, we'll give you 2 minutes to respond.
I appreciate all of you coming. I will not resign. None of you had anything to do with electing me, and my constituents have asked me not to resign. I respect you collect your petitions. If you get it on the ballot, get the votes, and then I will leave. However, I would ask that when you want to educate the district about anti-Semitic or anything relating to the Jewish people, be honest with them. Everyone knows that had nothing to do with Judaism. It might have been a bad choice of the symbol. And I would also like you to answer, where were you when we had students marching off of our campuses with swastikas on signs, encouraged by their teachers? There was no one. And there wasn't only one board member that stood against it, and that was me. So don't pick your facts and choose what you're going to say. Be honest about it. What I did was maybe a bad symbol, but it was nothing against the Jewish people. It was specific about a dictatorship. And I'm pretty sure I'm the only one in this room who ever actually cared for someone who was in the Holocaust. So don't pretend you know who I am at all. Don't pretend. And Kami Kelly has broken the law, and she will be charged. She will be filed against.
Dr. Pack.
So I attended the Arizona School Board Association Summer Leadership Conference Institute, whatever it is. And as I always say, these trainings are great because you have common ground with other board members. And so, again, talking and hanging out with other superintendents. There's some great people there. And seeing the demographer and all the great speakers that they have. So that was very beneficial to me as a board member. And then, of course, I've spent a considerable amount of time on the boundaries proposal, prepared and attended for the study session on June 9th. Talked to many community members, drove around, heard pros and cons. I also want to share that Mrs. Tallarico taught me in Deer Valley High School in English. God rest her soul, she's not here anymore. But she taught me that words matter. And so I'm not Jewish. I did have a family member die from COVID, and my twin brother and I, fun fact about Dr. Pack, grew up with a single mom in a trailer park in the Deer Valley District, which is still, I believe, here. So words matter, and I just, again, would implore everybody on the board and any elected official with all these commercials we're seeing, be better, do better. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Pack. Mrs. Fisher, back to you.
I also attended the summer leadership program, and Dr. Pack is correct. It is one of the best trainings. But I have noticed more and more that we attend that ASBA really does not support governing boards anymore. They don't actually empower us to make the decisions that the community expects us to. There's too much manipulation from the Superintendent's Association, and I would like us to have a discussion of whether or not we remain with ASBA. We always stayed because our policies came from there. However, the trust does have policies that are equivalent, if not better. They have a better legal review. And so I just think that's something that we need to consider. I will tell you, if you're going to leave, if at any point the board decides to leave ASBA, it takes, they've changed some of their policies, so it takes time. It's like a year. You have to give them advance notice. So that's a discussion and a consideration. It's not like it was when Dysart jumped out. They could just jump out. There's a conversation that goes with it. And there's also a transition of your policies to make sure that you have a crosswalk and whatnot so that you're not missing anything. So that was those two things. I do want to apologize to the community for the comments that were made by the board president. I don't believe they were aimed at the community. They were definitely aimed at me. Off the reservation is well known that my daughter is Native American, my oldest, and I'm sure the trailer park one was at me too. And the online apology was immediately followed with a "let's get her." So on the back end. So I'm sorry if you took offense. I had a lot of people contact me, and I don't believe it was aimed at any of you. It was aimed at me. And I don't know, give him the grace he gives no one. So that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Mr. Botfield.
As you know, I used to do the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not doing it anymore. I still owe an apology to Karen Peck and for the bad joke, and I apologize for that. What I'm about to say is not going to make me popular. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, no more death threats for Kim Fisher. She doesn't deserve that. She's been getting them. I disagree with what she did and what she said, but she doesn't deserve death threats. 2, the voucher system needs to be corrected. This week, or actually last week, the Auditor General for the state of Arizona came up with questionable spending amounting to $100 million on the ESA voucher system. So when you get to November, vote for the ESA voucher. It's called the Protect Education Act. 3, there are 3 bills you should not vote for in November. HCR 2048. It's designed to prevent the voucher system from working. The entire bill, the voucher system bill would be void. Don't vote for HCR 2040. That's a dangerous measure intended to punish teachers and aiming to do away with school unions in our state. And finally, HCR 2007/SCR 132 is a blatant attack on school funding designed to micromanage and defund public school districts. It actually asks voters to force public schools to spend 60% of their funding on direct instructional expenses or have the difference withheld by the state. That might sound good, to spend more on classroom instruction. However, 60% is an unreasonable benchmark that schools haven't met at any point since 2003, when the Auditor General's office began monitoring the number. District instructional expenses only covers teachers, some aides, instructional supplies, field trips, and athletics. The narrow definition doesn't address all the other pieces required to make a kid's school day work. I'm sorry that I'm not doing the good, the bad, and the ugly anymore, because the ugly is still me. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Botfeld. I'd like to, for a quick second, just echo what Mr. Botfeld said about what's happening to Mrs. Fisher. We all make mistakes. I try to own mine as often as I can. And but I tell people all the time in some of the different hats that I wear in the community that we're a nation of laws. We're a nation built on the concept of rule of law. And if the community has an issue with Mrs. Fisher, there's legal ways to remedy that. And I would encourage you to pursue that if her behavior has been less than what it is that you expect out of a elected official. So that's about all I'm going to say on that one. I did misspeak at the last board meeting, and I was fairly quick to issue an apology. I had a really long conversation with a member of the community that pointed out to me that that would probably be the best thing to do, and I wasn't trying to ignore my missteps. I was just trying to understand why it is that I said what it is that I did, and it wasn't meant, regardless of what Ms. Fisher might think, as an attack towards anybody or on anybody. Trying to make a point, and I had poor word choice, and for that I do apologize to anybody that I offended. For those of you that know me, you know that I always seek to try to make those wrongs right, and so please, any grace you can extend me for my shortcomings on that, I would greatly appreciate. On another note, I'm going to be happy for a minute. This little guy, this is a bulldog. For those of you that can't see him, he's from Barry Goldwater. And I was called out to the school this week and given this as an award. And I want to share with you what was shared with me as to why me and what this is supposed to represent. This is the Bulldog Award from Barry Goldwater High School. They don't give out more than 7 of these in a school year. And this is what was told to me. Mr. Carver, this award is given in appreciation of the heart, patience, and dedication you've shown throughout the school year. Like a true bulldog, you've shown loyalty, strength, resilience, and determination as you continue to show up for students, support the team, and focus on what matters most, doing what is best for kids. Your positive attitude, steady commitment, and willingness to keep moving students forward, helped make this school year successful, and we are grateful the difference you continue to make. I don't do what I do for acknowledgments. As awesome as this is, I'd be lying if I didn't say that my heart was full after receiving this, and for those of you that know me, when my heart gets full, it comes out right here at the corner of your eye. But thank you, Mr. Botfeld. I appreciate that. I do it because it's what's right. My kids are all grown and gone and adults and having their own kids, and I'm a firm believer that at some point in time in our lives, it's time to start giving back, time to start leaving something better for the next generation. And so that's what gets me to where I am now. Serving you on this dais and doing the best that I can every day. So I'm thankful for that opportunity. And for those of you that don't know, if you ever have a question, I'm never afraid to answer it. All I hope is that we can have an exchange of respectful conversation. Sometimes that's hard to find in the world nowadays, but I respect our differences, and I know myself enough to know that I have a lot of shortcomings, and I just beg people's understanding when it comes to that. It's not a justification. It's just something that I know about myself. And if any of you need me, you can reach out to me on my district email or through social medias. I never hesitate to talk to anybody. So we appreciate everybody being here, and we'll give the rest of the time to Dr. Finch.
Thank you. Pathways has been rolling through the summer. There's hundreds of kids that are in those programs. Those are programs you can high school kids can catch up. Middle school kids runs at Goldwater. We have a middle school program over at Aspire as well. Jumpstart just finished. No more jumping, maybe napping. Jumpstart's all done. That's our catch-up program for the younger students that ran at Sunrise and Paseo. Thanks to all the staff that make that roll. Theater Rocks. I think probably Mr. Bopfeld jumped in on a couple of those. Those are always worth seeing. The students put on little performances. Usually at O'Connor was the last one, I believe. This week, I think they might even be performing this week. Double check on the website, see when the performance is. We're still staffing. Good news, we've hopefully, knock on wood, we have all our admin ready for next year. Well, we just filled the Legend Springs principal chair. Nicole Basil is going to run over and do our early childhood program. So that's great for her. Principal of the year a couple years ago. ESY, the extended school year for our special needs students, that's still rolling. Head Start's going as well. Another positive program for kids. Community Ed runs during the summer, so we still have hundreds of kids plugged into Deer Valley Unified. We also have summer feeding programs if anyone needs those. Again, go to our website or give us a buzz. We'll tell you where those are at. I saw a post from one of our teachers. He was in Target and was freaking out because there's school supplies available. That's kind of like walking into Lowe's into July and they have Christmas music going. It's like, isn't it a little early? Well, it's 6 weeks until school starts. Ouch. Yeah. This building never sleeps. It's kind of like New York. And so we're still rolling, getting ready for, we actually had 25, 30 new staff members today getting their computers, getting their passwords and all that stuff. So it's begun. Mr. Kilgore stepped out. He ran out just when he knew I was going to sing about him. There he is, Mr. Kilgore. Come on in here for a second. He's heading out the door and heading to Washington. So we have Brittany Sutton's going to be taking his spot. So thanks, Brian. Happy wife, happy life. So heading to Washington. We do have, I mentioned earlier that Dr. Z, Brittany, and Kayla and I actually met with the TSMC brass this afternoon and got a snapshot of what's happening. And just like everything around here, it's going faster than they thought. Just like the demographers said, we can't update our maps fast enough. And so I had an aha that when I was sitting there is when you are 2 feet away versus 2 miles away, it is majestic. So maybe we should drag the board over there and see that in real life. It will blow your mind. It is real and it is big. It's a monster. And they are they're not even probably a third done. And they had 63 cranes working inside and outside. I thought it was 36 was the record. They had 63 cranes going at that time. Cranes that come from all over the world and some of the two of the largest in the world. So it's 160 billion is a real number. So pretty exciting. Maybe we'll figure out a way to do a little field trip to get you to see that, because that's the big rock that's in the pond that's going to cause the ripple around our neighborhood. So, and thanks, Mr. Botfeld, for educating the folks that we're going to have a ballot initiative that will be disguised. It's a Trojan horse to about taking money from military families, but in the very fine print at the very bottom, it says if we take $1, i.e., if that SOS package passes, it will be null and void. So make sure you educate yourself on the initiatives that are coming. That's it. Next, July 4th is coming up. Have a happy holidays. In our next meeting, July 7th. Thanks.
Future board meetings can be found on the district website. We really do appreciate everybody coming out and being a part of this entire thing, and be safe. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Make sure you guys sign the book.